Yes? Yes. Hello. Happy Friday, everybody. All righty. So let me just test this really fast, make sure I have it going. Okay. So today's stream, first, I just want to thank you for being here yesterday. Great combo. And I really sat with the conversation we had, and I came away with some thoughts. First, now that I'm realizing I didn't pull up this video, let me pull up this video. So there were a few main thoughts that I sat with yesterday. One, of course, about masking, and two, about this idea of we were talking about being on an airplane and moving your seat backwards. And we were talking about like the ethics, and some people in chat were struggling with that being an unethical thing. So I thought today we could brainstorm the differences between being rude and when rudeness becomes unethical, because I think sometimes we mistake rudeness for, oh, you're being unethical, or, oh, you're being unethical with rudeness. Like a lot of, and a lot of this conversation will actually be a continuation of a conversation from the chatter yesterday. They did reply back, and there was a little bit of a back and forth. And I think ultimately what they're saying is, how do we discern the character of a person? So what data are we using to really know if a person is, quote, good, even if we don't believe in the concept of good and evil the way religious people talk about it? So we'll get into that. Let me bring this up really fast. So there was a content creator who came across my page. Dr. Asher Williams. Let me grab her main page. It says professor at Columbia University. Let me bring her up for us. Turn the volume on. So this is her TikTok page. It started getting recommended to me pretty quickly, I think because I was researching masking, and her content's about disability awareness and masking. So professor at Columbia University, Dr. Asher Williams. And I thought we could watch a couple of her TikToks to kind of have this conversation around masking, since we were having it the other day, and I want to continue it. I also, I had a bit of an epiphany last night that I think when we talk about the motivations to sort of be ethical or make a different decision, that plays a big role. So I was trying to think of my list of whys. It always comes down to why we do everything that we do. So why would I, like, how sometimes people criticize people, they'll say like, men don't care about women until they think that, oh, it could be your mother or your sister. Why can't you just care about people? I think that's a really interesting way for people to process information. I think there's 8 billion people on the planet, and there's just no way we are all having the same experience. So as a neurodivergent person, when people say that, it sounds like people are saying, you're autistic, but I just don't see why you can't see it the way I holistically see it. It's like, because I'm not holistic. I don't know. Like, I think there's like this mistake we make when we make an ethical argumentation, which is like, it's like it's easy, care about people, instead of why is it so hard to care about people? Because if it was easy to care about people, we would do it. Now it's obvious to me that everybody cares about the people they care about. And that is interesting, and that is good. And then on top of that layer, there's obviously everybody cares about the people they care about to an extent, because you could have your parents who say they really love their children, and they do. They'll be there, they'll pay your bills, they'll let you sleep out on the couch, they'll feed you, they'll clothe you, but they won't come to your wedding because they don't approve of your person, or they won't approve of your gay marriage, or they won't support your gender affirmation or needs, right? Like, you can have a person who loves you but like can't go that extra step, or like loves you but like can't meet you where you are, or loves you but deviates with values. So there's some layer to this. And I started to think about the whys in which could what why could motivate me to embody masking every day, everywhere I went. Keep in mind, every day doesn't apply to me because I leave my house like maybe once a week. So I actually literally am indoors all the time, and it's not exactly where I want to be. It's just the reality of my life and my disability. And it's not that I'm afraid to go outside and breathe air. It's just that I have to make a decision if I want to go outside today or if I want to stream today, because it's really hard for me to do both. I did it last week. I told you guys I had a really amazing day where I went outside, I went to the post office and I took a walk, and then I made a video for members, and then I came home. Well, I've been on burnout all week. I am burning out, and that is a part of my disability reality. So I no longer can do things I used to do. And look, I didn't have the knowledge or the education years ago to really know what was my physical disability and what was something else. So I'll just say and I struggle to say this out loud to you because I don't want it to sound like what I'm saying is should be weaponized. But I did find myself thinking I bet I could motivate myself to mask if I thought I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. Because it sounds like I'm saying no one, I don't know if we're masking so people don't become disabled, or if we're masking so people with disabilities don't die, or if we're masking because if you tell me it's about harm reduction, then in that way, I could definitely relate it to some sort of oh yeah, I wouldn't wish this on anybody. The pain I live with every day, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. And at the same time, is that sending the message that living with pain every day is less of a life, and then we shouldn't want disabled children? And then it's a question about is that how we should look at it? I don't want to play into some eugenicist arguments, but I will say that I am heavily motivated by this idea of sparing people from pain. But that idea of sparing people from pain can often get hijacked by right-wingers and conservatives who use it as a justification for eugenics. And so that's another part of this that's hard. And also, I am the kind of person that doesn't inherently value existing, in the sense that I still don't think we should take people's lives in any capacity. But I don't inherently believe it's good to exist, in the sense that children, we should have babies. I don't believe in that. So it was something I've been thinking about and mulling over, why would I go? Why would I change? And what does that mean? And this is the question you have to ask yourself. So when you're on this journey, the question is why are you doing it? Because if you do it for the wrong reasons, you're going to be a performative male holding Jane Austen. You know what I mean? You're going to be a performative male holding some philosophy book. And I don't think that's necessary. I don't think that's good. I don't think it's good for the world to be performative in that particular sense, because I think I'd rather have it be embodied. So I'm still figuring out my why would I do this. So in order to figure it out, let's check out some of these TikToks from Dr. Asher, because I thought they were interesting when I was watching them. So anyways, some morning thoughts. Let's watch.
Mass is assuming one thing people get wrong about mass is assuming everyone wears one for the same reason. In reality, people are trying to achieve different things. Some people are
we're talking about physical masks, PS, because of COVID still being here and disease in the air, and we're not talking about autistic masking. We're talking about physical masks on your face.
Protecting themselves. Some wrong about mass is assuming everyone wears one for the same reason. In reality, people are trying to achieve different things. Some people are protecting themselves, some are protecting others, some have health conditions, some have vulnerable family members, some have an important trip, exam, surgery, conference, or event coming up, and some people just don't want to be sick if they can avoid it. But most people are making decisions based on information you don't have. And that's worth remembering before assuming that you know why someone chooses to wear a mask or not wear one in a particular situation. One thing people...
Okay, yeah, I agree with that. I think this also plays into why we do anything that we do. And it plays into this idea of what signaling safety looks like. And I talk about this all the time. You want to signal safety. Safety to the right people, safety in the right situation, safety in the right way. The question is, what is the safety I'm trying to signal? Because, and I know this sounds crazy, but the reason why when you go into conservative places, you autistically mask, not physically mask, you tone it down, is because you want to signal safety so they don't target you as an unsafe person. So if I was in a conservative place, I would signal safety by not wearing a mask. Do you know what I'm saying? So signaling safety isn't enough of a motivator, because wearing a mask is not signaling safety in a lot of places for a majority of people, because the disability community is so neglected. So I don't think that's a good enough motivator to wear a mask. I think that's the wrong framing and doesn't make sense. So the framing has to be, even if it doesn't signal safety to a majority of people, it might signal safety to the right people, the specific people. And then what does that mean? So, okay, so that's another reframing I would create. Now, this says the French Ebola patient boarded a commercial flight while still well enough to travel. Symptoms worsened during the flight. A reminder that you can't predict when the person next to you is incubating and when they'll become sick. France confirms first Ebola case. Okay, and then like this is something to remember. Like we had a few health scares, a few announcements about health scares, and we had the one
There's
from
one
the
question from the
we had the one from the cruise, and we had the Ebola outbreak. And I always wonder about that. Like, what are the precautions we can take? Wearing a mask might be one of them. And again, totally love masks, have no issues with masks, love a mask. Okay, so this isn't anti-mask conversations, right? This is the question is, when should you wear a mask? Not if you should wear a mask. I think we all agree you should wear masks. The question is when. Okay, next video.
COVID lockdown. There's one question from the COVID lockdown era that I've never really stopped thinking about. People receiving chemotherapy, people living with transplanted organs, children born with autoimmune disorders. They didn't disappear after 2020. They're still our neighbors, coworkers, family, friends. What COVID changed for many of us wasn't just how we thought about viruses, but it brought a question into everyday life that we rarely have to think about. What do we owe people who we've never met? And how much should we be willing to consider other people's health when we make everyday decisions? I don't think there's an easy answer, but I think it's one of the important questions that we've been grappling with throughout the COVID era. So I'm curious, has your answer changed? There's one question from the COVID lockdown era.
One of the things that I will say about this that I think is really important. Okay, first, chat says, to me at least, masking is definitely about harm reduction and keeping my family safe. Honestly, if people could at least mask in medical settings, it would already make the things much safer. Great idea, right? I really appreciate you considering this and talking about it because it's important, but I also know most people will want to do it because of the stigma, making the world a little more accessible. Yeah, I think that's a really good example. Like masking in medical areas, on crowded buses, shopping malls, concerts, things that are indoors, maybe. Like I'm trying to think of specific things that people might do. One of the things I see online that makes my brain, again, I'm, autistically neurodivergent, so the way that I brainstorm and think about things is all over, but it all makes sense in the end, girls. I was thinking about when you see like a sick conservative on the internet or a sick person on the internet, people go, wait, who'd you vote for before I care that you're sick? And I think this does play into this idea because I think the dilemma is like we have to do the right thing no matter who benefits from it. But I think some people don't want to do the right thing because bad people benefit from it. And in an ideal world, bad people would benefit from good people and good people would not benefit from bad people. But I think we live in a world where good people don't want bad people to benefit. But then now we start debating like who's good and who's bad instead of how do we make the world a good place for even bad people, which is why I always say like universal healthcare, even for Nazis, right? Like, because the idea is like you take the worst group, and you give them universal healthcare. Because again, I have no enemies, which actually plays into
wearing kids in daycare.
Sorry, hold on. Which plays into this message I got on my channel that says, I support the Palestinian podcaster. They're talking about me soon. I also, Taylor Lorenz, our enemy is Israel. Don't lose focus. Our enemy is Israel. I said, I would say that enemies are a patriarchal concept. Enemies are myths created by men. So men feel good about the destruction they cause. We are anti-G-side and all forms of patriarchal violence. And that includes naming people as enemies instead of just doing the right thing. Because, if we're going to dismantle patriarchy, that includes naming whole countries as our enemies. And that includes naming whole groups of people as our enemies. So again, like enemy is a patriarchal concept. We have no enemies. We are simply animals on a planet. And so the concept of an enemy creates this idea that they shouldn't benefit versus creating a system where we all benefit. And so I understand the sentiment. I understand the feeling, but I have no enemies. And so this idea of enemies is so interesting. And this is why men cause war. This is why, people do what they're going to do. So again, I think when we have that conversation, I suppose like there's just so much there's so much here that we have to deconstruct. Okay? And I think that plays into masking and health concerns. Like who's going to benefit before I decide to do the right thing? Okay, next TikTok.
Has completely changed. Having kids in daycare has completely changed how I think about risk. It taught me that there's a difference between unavoidable risk and unnecessary risk. Daycare is probably our biggest source of exposure, and for now, I can't really change that. So I focus on what I can control by asking myself one question. Is this risk necessary? Flying, I wear a mask. Crowded indoor space, I reconsider whether it's worth the risk. Vaccines, I stay up to date. None of these eliminate risk. They just lower it. And over time, those small decisions do add up. Having kids in daycare has completely changed.
You know, daycare is such an interesting idea too, because like you want to talk about masking, you like, you know, and I think people bring this up like children masking and stuff. I do think you can get children used to masking, and at the same time, it's hard to keep anything on a kid's face for sure. And parents ran into that during lockdown. They felt really burdened by the fact that they had to keep their masks on kids. I think the problem is like life is really hard. And so those of us who can should, and that would help. And that's where I tried to figure out where I am. Okay, Brittany, those who can should. What does that mean? And this is sort of the Peter Singer argument about like, if you have any excess of money, you should donate it to people who need, because you don't need extra things. So like Chelsea Fagan buying a second house. This is why I say it's interesting to live in a world where there's a housing crisis, there's a health crisis, there's all these things happening, and then somebody buys a second house who's supposed to be on the left. It's a weird signal. It's like, fuck, okay. So when we have this conversation about like casting judgment, the judgment is, are we doing the same thing? The judgment is not, are we all going to march against fascism? Because like, no offense, low bar. If you are marching against Trump, there are going to be white supremacists, racists, there's going to be rapists, there's going to be homophobes and transphobes all marching with you. It is a low bar to be anti-Trump. There's a lot of fucking loser men who are anti-Trump, bro. And they're going to fucking be your abusers. Men who literally date you and call themselves liberal men who beat you at night when no one's watching are going to absolutely march at the anti-fascism rally. So being anti-Trump is just the lowest fucking bar. The question isn't who's going to show up to the protests. That's the easiest part to show up to, right? The hardest part is what are you doing in your daily life every day to mitigate harm and do the right thing? That's when shit gets hard, is what are you doing when no one's watching? What are you doing when no one knows what you're doing? What are you doing when no one's looking? That's the hard shit, okay? So the question is, what are we doing when no one's watching? And it doesn't coincide with our values, you know? Okay, let me see. I don't think there is oxygen in this room, bros. I gotta open the door. I forgot to keep it open. I think there's no, for some reason, like it never happens, but these last 3 days, there's been like no air circulation in this room. And if I don't open the door like I did yesterday, I got faint. This morning I came in here to work and I was like, I was gonna feel like I was gonna pass out again. And I was like, what is that? And it's only in here. So we'll leave the door open to allow some airflow. I don't know what that's about. It's like sucking out all the oxygen or something. Oh my God. Okay, now, here we go. Let me scroll up in case I miss a thing. Chess said, oh yeah, I really don't think kids should have to mask unless you make it work without causing unnecessary harm. Yeah, I don't, see, when you say I don't think kids should mask, why not? Do you know what I mean? Like, why not? Why shouldn't kids mask is always the question. Like, it's not saying that, like, because, like, what's the inherent harm of kids masking? And you said unless it causes more harm, but you're starting off with the sentence of, so that means you must have a judgment. What's your thought process behind that? You know what I mean? What are you thinking? Because I'm curious. Because I'm thinking, sure, kids can mask. Assuming it's just that it's damn near impossible, to be honest. Maybe I'm thinking of like 5-year-olds or 10-year-olds. You know what I mean? Or, because like when they're infants, sure, or when they're toddlers, but when they're like 5 and 6 and 7, they're old. They can absolutely mask. if it makes sense, but of course within reason. You know what I mean? Right? Chad says, what about if I'm autistic and more prone to physical anxiety, and masking consistently makes me more prone to panic attacks? Yeah, I think you take into you take it into consideration. Now, of course, we could also talk about how parents are bad at parenting and none of you know how to keep your kids in line. If you would like, we can cast judgment on bad parenting. But then it's like, you don't know, you're not a parent. Okay, but I raise enough kids to know that none of you guys are bottoming to your kids. And I'm talking about, that's the other part of it, is like, let's be real. It's like we're acting like parents are good people. Like, parents are typically not prepared. They have kids without planning. They're not actually good at their job. So of course their kids, you know what I'm saying? Like, I understand that in some ways, you know, parenting is hard, but in some ways, just, okay, somebody who professionally worked with parents, they have so many good intentions, but a lot of these parents, they just, I don't know even know how to tell you. They don't know why they're parents. You know what I mean? They don't know how to like think about why they're parents. It's very interesting. So we could also talk about that. But okay, if you're autistic and you're disabled, if you have if you have some sort of trouble, I get that. We talked a lot about it yesterday. Again, it goes with, this is the vegan argument. It's like, hey, we should be vegan. It's like, well, what if I can't afford it? What if I live in a food desert? What if this? Again, the question should be asked to seek solution, not to counter the idea that it's impossible. So first, we have to ask ourselves, are we asking the question so we can solve the problem? Or are we asking the question so we don't have to solve the problem? So I want to ask the question in order to solve the problem. But then before we solve the problem, though, we first have to be motivated to solve the problem. And that's where you have to get to first. So sometimes you do have to ask these questions at the same time, parallel. So I think I think I always do parallel. Like, you know how I've gone plant-based, even though I'm not vegan yet, because I'm not sure, because it sounds like a bigger deal than, I don't know, it depends on the vegan I hear from. But I'm debating it because veganism is a philosophy that recognizes the sentience and individuality of every living sentient creature. I do see that. I have a no killing humans rule except in absolute self-defense. I have a no killing animals rule except in absolute self-defense for myself. It is a moral positioning I'm taking. Is it an ethical one? Do I think so? I think so, and that's the problem. But I only think going vegan makes more sense if we think of it as a harm reduction philosophy. But since it's not a harm reduction philosophy, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not a vegan. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's something there, right? Chat said, I encourage autistic folks, myself included here, not to use it as an excuse not to mask. I've seen a lot of, I get overstimulated and same bestie, but we need to do as much as we can tolerate. I think instead of thinking it's an excuse, because I will just tell you this, if we're autistic and we get PDA and we're fighting for a pervasive sense of autonomy, then I will kill myself. I'm not exaggerating when I say that some of us have brains that go, oh, I'll just kill myself. There, problem solved. It's the most efficient solution. I won't have to deal with the anxiety. I won't deal with the bullying or social pressure, and you'll have one less human taking up resources. So the encouragement I want to give you is that your feelings are valid and they're happening in your head. The question is, can we separate and acknowledge and say our feelings are real? Move it over and say, okay, that's real. And then say, what do I do about these feelings? Because they're happening. You're having a real biological experience. You are overstimulated. You are feeling suffocated. You are feeling trapped. You are feeling like this isn't fair. Like one more thing that I have to do in a world where I'm doing so much. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Okay. Yes. Which is why I will never ask you to do more. I'm not going to ask you to put on a mask. Instead, we're going to do one less bad thing every day. A little less bad every day. Okay? A little less bad every day. So today, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty great. You know what? I'm even feeling a little cute. And I have a mask that happens to match the pants I'm wearing. fuck it. We're wearing a mask today. I can feel it. You know, let's go. Right? Let's wear this physical mask over our face, matches our pants. We're going to look so cute. Let's do it. One little less bad today. The next day, I can't do it today. I'm feeling too overwhelmed. I'm feeling so suffocated by life. I need to still go out and buy my milk, which is dairy free and oat milk. Okay. I can't do it today. I can't. Okay, fine. Instead of wearing a mask, I will shop at a time during the day when I know there's the less people. I will maybe wear gloves, and I will do my best to be careful about how many things I touch in the store. Okay? The idea is like, we are animals on a planet. We are literally animals. We are literally animals. So we have to be very patient with the fact that we have like an experience that isn't always up to us. That's why I don't believe in free will. I think we're here to experience the ride. So I agree that we shouldn't use anything as an excuse. And I agree that the thing we're going through is real. And once we get the validation that we're really going through it, only then do I think we can calm down enough to make a rational decision. But I think sometimes when you're already like feeling it, and then somebody goes, did you do this today? Did you do this today? Did we do this? Did you do it? And then you did it, and then you feel guilty. You're like, oh my God, am I a bad person? I'm already struggling. Everything's so hard, So that's, everyone's right. Everyone's right. It's just everyone's at a different place in that right. And so we have to kind of balance it out. So do a little less bad every day. So I hear all of you are giving valid opinions, right? Okay, so and then of course this goes back to infrastructure as well, because all of us can be, educated in illness and airborne this and the differences from this and this. Like I can't do the research. I'm too fucking tired. Somebody do it and tell me what to do. I'm too fucking tired. I cannot be an Ebola specialist and a COVID specialist and a fucking international law specialist and a fucking what is Trump doing today specialist and a fucking, I cannot do everything. You can't do everything. So then we have to have a trusted group of people we trust to give us the most updated information. And that's where the deviation comes in. Who do we trust? What resources do we trust on what to do next? And that's really where this is at, because if we had a good community to rely on, then we wouldn't have to have all of this anxiety over like what is the right thing. We would have somebody say, look, I'm on the same team as you. We're definitely on the same page. Here's the latest information. Everybody wear a mask. And then because everybody was doing it, we would feel inspired. We would feel less, anxiety, because a lot of this is of course social, right? And at the same time, like, I think it's, it also is individualistic. Like, we are individuals in a collective. That's just the reality. So you just never know what someone's going through. You know what I mean? And then, of course, that comes into, you don't judge people because you don't know what they're going through. And that's the other part of this. We can't judge people we don't know what they're going through. But we can have the discernment or make the judgment of, I don't know what you're going through right now, but I need to step away. That's my solution, is like, hey, I don't know what's going on in your life. So because I don't know and you're not sharing, which is fine, I'm going to disengage because now I don't know what's going on and I can't risk it, Okay. Let's see. Chez says home delivery and click and collect grocery shopping is very useful if you want to avoid physically going to the supermarket. Well, okay, that brings in the ethical conversation about home delivery. Who's delivering it? Are they getting paid a fair wage? As an example, we've been in a heat wave. And so my partner and I deliberately made a decision not to order our groceries this week because sometimes we order it from a very specialized store that I buy stuff from, but it's far away. And we decided not to get delivery because it was too hot, and we didn't want to contribute to a delivery guy being on a scooter because they don't deliver on cars. They deliver on scooters here. And I didn't want to contribute to them being in the heat wave unless we are willing to pay them 100% tip or more, like to pay them like enough money to have to like, that will be their last delivery today, but we couldn't put it in our budget, so we couldn't afford it. So we just didn't buy groceries from that store this week. Like, do you know what I'm saying? When we play, like, when we do this, we're like doing this thing where there's a lot of thought. Most people are not thinking that way at all. This is a unique level of consensual stress that we add into our life because of our values. But just for the record, there's no way I could sell you on being that stressed about making a simple delivery, because it's like the world is so much. But that's just, That's just what we think about. That's like the stuff that I think about. And I'm like, I'm not going to make them deliver my groceries in 90-degree weather. The fuck? You know what I mean? Unless, again, when we always dream about like, oh, when we have excess money, we're going to pay people like so much money. Like, that's not that we should even be responsible for it, but like, that's our dream, is like, oh my gosh, when we do order groceries, we're going to be able to afford to like give people like nice tips, because like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, it goes back to this idea of like having house cleaners. Like, oh, I need help around the house. I need to pay somebody to do my laundry and my groceries and my cleaning. Yeah, but who is that person? And are you trying to build your way into wealth in order to pay somebody else a lower wage to do something that is like your house and your responsibility? And is it your responsibility, or should you pay someone to do that responsibility? Right? Like, these are always the questions. Chat said, I'm sorry, you can't be 100% ethical. There are some things you have to compromise on. Well, I mean, we compromise every day. I mean, I exist, right? The compromise is that you exist. Every human being will cause harm in the universe. Every single one of us. So as long as we stay alive, we cause harm. And that is the compromise we make for not killing ourselves. I'm dead fucking serious. Yeah, that is already the compromise. I'm not willing to kill myself to make the world, to take, one less human being who's, quote, taking resources or engaging in harm pollution or engaging in like, discovering themselves at a slower pace. Like, I don't think we should kill ourselves because we're imperfect. But I think like that is the place we have to start first. Every child you bring into the universe is a potential serial killer, is always going to cause harm, is a potential rapist, is a potential fascist. Like, every single innocent child you bring into the universe has every potential to be a horrible person. And that's the part that I don't think humans are ready to have that conversation, because we still live in a place where it's like everyone is good and America is great and we just need to, Chet says, I agree, but we can also outweigh our harm through good works. No, I don't think so. I think that's a cope that people teach us, because then people say, oh, I did bad here, but I'll counter it later by being good. You can either be less bad, you can never be more good. No, I don't think so. I think that's almost like a Catholic thinking, right? Like, if I just repent and I say 10 Hail Marys, then it's okay that I did that thing before. You either are going to be less bad and the result will be more good, but if you try to be more good, the road to hell is paved in good intentions. So no, I don't think you can counter your bad. I think you can just do less bad. And that for me is like how I would look at it. Okay, next TikTok. This is Dr. Asher Williams.
Wearing a mask is literally the least you can do that isn't doing nothing. It doesn't eliminate risk, and it doesn't have to. Reducing risk is still reducing risk. Wearing a mask is literally the least you can do that isn't.
Okay, wearing a mask is literally the least you can do. Least you can do.
Doing nothing. It doesn't.
That isn't doing nothing.
Eliminate risk, and it doesn't have to. Reducing risk is still reducing risk.
Reducing risk is still reducing risk. Okay. Let me see. Okay, so those were the TikToks that I thought were interesting from her. Though I thought I had a few more. Hold on. I do have a few more, don't I? Let me do this. Oh yeah, Me in the Future documentary explaining the mysterious illness everyone just calls allergies. I don't know what that means. She's a professor at Columbia.
Wearing a mask is.
Let me see. We disinfect our phones. We sanitize shopping carts. We wipe down gym equipment. Okay, first of all, that is a joke, because no, people are not. You know how many times I've been to the gym and nobody's wiping down equipment? You know how many times I've been places like, no, you are not. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, we create a myth that people are doing things they're not doing. Like, some people are doing it. But obviously, that's why I think gyms are kind of gross. Like, that's why I don't really want to go. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, gyms are gross. And so, like, people, no, shopping carts. Honestly, I've never disinfected a shopping cart, even though I should. I haven't. I just wash my hands the moment I get home. But yeah, like, I don't do that. That's what I'm saying. I don't do it. It says, but the air we breathe, it rarely gets the same attention. I think there's some validity to this. I think she's right. It does barely get the same attention. And so there's something to think about. Maybe I'll start wiping down my shopping carts, COVID, when nobody is testing for it. It's kind of funny, but I mean, it's sad. Obviously, it's serious. Okay. Thought daycare was childcare. Wrong. It's a viral exposure study. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
There's one question from the COVID lockdown era that I've never really.
It says, one thing I hope we never forget about the pandemic, it wasn't the billionaires who kept society running. It was the nurses, janitors, grocery work cleaners, crews, food workers, delivery drivers, and countless others. When everything else stopped, they kept moving. Exactly. Which is why it's bullshit. You know what I mean? It's bullshit. We have to like figure that out. That's what I'm saying. Oh my God, I saved a lot of her TikToks. It says there are 3 kinds of people on every flight. The people who know they're sick. The people who don't know they're contagious. The people who assume both are on board. I mean, I get it. Definitely. You know, when I wore a mask all during my flights, of course, like I wasn't going to go to the airport cold turkey. So when I came to Europe, like that 20-hour flight, no. I was masked up. You know what I mean? Absolutely not. Okay. So all of this to say, there's a lot to think about. It's always good to keep having the convos and educating ourselves, right? Chad says, why are we wearing masks? A hint of virus outbreak or what's going on? I mean, COVID's still here. Wear a burqa then. Okay. What? I'm going to hide you. You seem annoying. Wear a burqa then? What? I'm blocking that person. Don't mention the burqas. I don't want to hear a single man ever open his mouth about a burqa. Okay, whether it's to wear it or not, this is a women's issue. Be quiet. Okay, she has OCD. Sorry, but that's not everyone else's problems. Who has OCD? Let me see. Chad said it felt weird when people thank me for my service for working in a grocery store. That is kind of weird, honestly. But like only because like don't thank me, pay me. You know what I mean? Jess said, I'm sorry, but too much of anything is a bad thing. There are germophobic people out here who think they'll drop dead if they don't scrub their meat with washing up liquid. People will end up zero immune systems. Chad says, I disagree. I wear a mask and I do not mind it, but it is doing something. I hated the way mask felt, made me feel a little hard to breathe. I did it for the greater good. Okay. Chad said, I feel like public health institutions fail to explain that COVID is spread by aerosol, really small particles in the air, so people don't know what personal protective equipment is required. Definitely. Right? Chad said, I think there are other ways to ethically support delivery drivers than just not paying them their normal wage. Maybe leave out a gift bag, water, maybe donate to a campaign that supports them. Sure, those are good solutions, right? Chad said, if someone hypothetically lives vegan and mindful like your deliveries, but starts a multi-million-dollar charities and volunteers every second of free time, what is this? Ooh, that sounded like an interesting question, but I think I missed the beginning. Was there a second part of that question? Let me see. Are you commenting on the do good works? If someone hypothetically lives vegan and mindful like your deliveries, but starts multi-million-dollar charities. Chad said, sorry, B, I was referring to the woman who seemed to have extreme fear of any germs. Oh, it's the type of person who can't accept life, living microbes on their skin. Yeah. So this is outside of my wheelhouse, right? I don't know the science. I'm a philosophy channel, so I can't comment on any of that. What we're discussing is ethics. Like, what is the best thing to do in a way that helps people? And I don't know the science part of it, and maybe that would help. Like the other chatter said, like, maybe it would help if we had the right education from the right scientists to tell us, and then we could weigh the pros and cons of our actions, right? I think that would probably help. You know, Chet said, I think something good or healthy things are a little uncomfortable, but some people don't like being a little uncomfortable, even if it benefits people. Yeah. So, you know, there's this idea that, there's two ways to think about comfortable. one is on the superficial level of comfortability. Are their shoes comfortable? And one is more like philosophical spiritual comfort, in sync with your philosophical joy, right? Chet said my other comment was just giving extreme examples of a case where good works could theoretically outweigh harm. Well, building a multi-million-dollar nonprofit that gave to people would probably be through what system? How do you fund multi-millions of dollars in order to build a nonprofit at the expense of what, and why does it exist? Right? Like, we're doing this thing where I think the issue is that we play games with ourselves to justify the harm we create, to counteract the violence or badness or evil, instead of asking ourselves, why do evil in the first place? And yes, we can't exist without harming. So again, this goes back to being an animal on the planet. It's not to say that you can be perfect. It's to say if we can't be perfect, then what can we be? And we can be less bad, right? Because like, being more good does not necessitate being less bad. You can do more good things for your neighbors and never stop beating your kids. You could build a multi-million-dollar business. You could help your neighbors. You could be the most amazing person in public and go home and beat your wife every day. It doesn't matter how much good you do if you're still maintaining the bad. So you have to be less bad every day. So you then create a good out of creating less harm. So I think there's like this myth, because that's literally what many people do. That is literally what happens in political campaigns. That's literally what happened in so many political situations where women were told, stay silent about the men who are abusing you because their greater cause outweighs your singular pain. That's what we're being told with a lot of these political movements, is like, our pain as marginalized people matters less than the movement of dismantling capitalism. And so, again, Chat said Epstein. Epstein used that. Exactly, Chat. Epstein said, what does it matter if my money is dirty if I've saved children from the polio vaccine? Exactly. Like, that was Epstein's thinking. That is literally what capitalists say. Capitalists say, who cares if I run $1 billion business? Look at all the money I donate. And I'm saying, what good is that though? Like, so just something to reframe the way we think about it. Because again, it's not the good people we're concerned about. It's the justification of the bad people and the good people who end up supporting them. So that's our concern. If we watched the Woke 2.0 video yesterday that was so bad. His justification is, I'm going to throw slurs at marginalized people because it's for the greater good of fighting fascism. And I'm saying, how does that help marginalized people? How is you throwing around slurs and attacking people with slurs helping people? How is that fighting fascism? You know what I mean? And it's not. It's just making him feel good because he's like, when they go low, we go lower. Okay, girl. It just doesn't make any sense. And so it only makes sense in a world where we think like, oh, there's a justification for harm, which is why I think enemies as a concept is a patriarchal one. It's like this idea that like, I have an enemy, and if I have an enemy, then I'm allowed to hurt the enemy because they're an enemy. And, it's this whole cycle, Okay, now with that said, I have no enemies, but Trump did a state fair, and just so you know what's going on in part of the world that I think is like, I barely even paid attention to this, but Dr. Oz says America's state fair crowd was huge, but the camera says otherwise.
And it's because there's tons of people here. It's a huge space, and it's just going to get more and more crowded as the week goes on.
Not only do we have a lot of people here, we have people that you want to have here, like Stacey Garrity. That woman will be next governor of Pennsylvania.
There we go.
Yep, look at her, beautiful red hair.
And it's because there's tons of people here.
Who went here, bro? Look at that. Like, nobody's there.
It's a huge space, and it's just going to get more and more crowded as the week goes on.
Not only do we have a lot of people here, we have people that you want to have here, like Stacey Garrity. That woman will be next governor of Pennsylvania.
There we go.
Yep, look at her, beautiful red hair.
Dr. Oz, how are you, sir? TMZ.
You're looking better and better.
Oh, thank you, sir. I like that. Hey, what's been your favorite thing to do at the fair?
Well, you have a couple options. It's a bit hot. You can sweat if you want to enjoy the outdoors. And it's free, by the way, sweating in Washington.
Yeah.
And the best part, they get to host these great folks like Dan Amon. We're talking about brain health. We actually can make a massive difference in how you see the world around you. You spend a little time rethinking some of the basics, getting better sleep, which, by the way, help with stress more than anything else. If there was a pill, they could do it.
Oh, do you think we'd get more sleep if maybe the economy wasn't so bad and we all didn't need 3 jobs to pay our rent? You know what I'm saying? Don't you think we'd all like to get more sleep, sir?
Because we all pay whatever it costs.
Right.
All right, smile. Like State Representative Carrier.
There feels like there's quite a few people here today. What do you have to say to people who say, like, no one's here and no one's interested?
There always going to be naysayers. The reality is go out and live life, enjoy life. You know, you can make a lot of noise as one person and be able to fill up the entire space around you. I'd rather focus on the reality that this is a loud place with lots of people excited and passionate to be here. Maha Monday.
Okay, see you later, mate. Hey, obviously your photo of the Ferris wheel and the crowds and stuff went viral, and you got a lot of hate for it. What do you say to the haters? Like, you know, there's quite a few people here today, you know, walking around and that sort of stuff. You know, do you think like crowd sizes were greatly underestimated by a lot online?
Well, I think that making a deal out of it is stupid in its own right. I mean, it's going to get more and more crowded as time goes on. We're day 5 now. I took it because it's one of the most incredible photos I've ever seen of our nation's, our national mall, of the Washington Monument, of the Capitol. I think it's just incredible. So I took that picture to say, look at how gorgeous this is. And then everybody's like, oh, there's nobody there. There's tons of people around here. And it's going to get more and more crowded. But that's divisive. I was trying to be, you know, unifying towards people. Okay, look how great this is in our nation's capital. And then people decided to hate. That's
You think people want nobody here? You know what I mean?
I think there's a lot of people who do want nobody here so they can own Trump. And I think that's ridiculous. We should be celebrating America and coming together.
Are you going to go to any of the July 4th big celebrations with the apparently biggest fireworks in history?
It will be the biggest fireworks in history, for sure. I can't go to it because I'll be in Texas making a movie, which I'm leaving for right now. But I think I get back to my house in Vegas just on July 4th, if everything works out well. So I'll be able to watch it from my rooftop deck. And looking at it over Vegas won't be the same, but I'll watch it on TV.
All right, then this is The Independent reporting. Same event.
Is the Great American State Fair a god-awful semi-quincentennial flop? President Donald Trump doesn't seem to think so. On Monday, he took to Truth Social to post a rhetorical question to his followers there, asking, do you think people appreciate what a fantastic job we did in building and operating the Great American State Fair at the National Mall, packed with happy people and everybody loving it? To be fair, the event was...
Wait. Do you think that Obama and Sleepy Joe Biden could have done it? The answer is no. Ask yourself this simple question.
packed with happy people and everybody loving it? To be fair, the event was built and is operated by the Freedom 250 organization. That's a White House-aligned group that's been putting on events to mark America's 250th anniversary this week. There was supposed to be a bipartisan, congressionally chartered effort called America 250, but the Trump administration has largely sidelined that in favor of this more partisan organization. I went looking for all of those happy people on Tuesday, and I could not find very many people. The event dominates the National Mall, but there were mostly wide open spaces there. Behind me is an empty field at the Great American State Fair and a stage sponsored by the National Endowment for the Arts. Ironically, that's one of the many organizations that the Trump administration has either actually defunded or pushed
This grass does look nice, though. I kind of want to have a picnic on it.
to defund since returning to office last January as part of its drive to eliminate all things woke from government funding. On the other side of this fake building containing some exhibits, we have another largely empty field surrounded by more of these pop-up buildings and a series of booths for cabinet departments. We've got the Department of Treasury exhibiting, the Department of Energy, the Department of Justice, Education, which the Trump administration is trying to eliminate, the Trust for the National Mall as well. Most of what you see here is temporary.
Oh.
All of this will be gone as soon as this Great American State Fair wraps up.
Maybe they're like, Chess says, why isn't there more stuff on the lawn? Maybe because it does kill the grass. So maybe they didn't want more people on it or something. I mean, honestly, the water it takes to maintain grass.
And at the center of it all, right behind me, is a mock-up of the 250-foot triumphal arch Donald Trump really wants to put up.
Wait, pause. Chad, are you saying the woman shouldn't have used a mask on a flight? I just want to get in on this convo you guys are having in chat. Or you said I understand, but the woman was on a public flight. People often do follow such protocols in situations. Because I was going to say, like, the number one place we definitely should have masks is definitely a flight because we're all squished in the same little bubble, like in the same, we're all like breathing the same air. You know what I mean? Anyways.
Between the Lincoln Memorial and Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. Veterans groups have sued to block the arch, saying that it desecrates what's considered a sacred view, allowing the statue of Abraham Lincoln to look out over the Potomac River and see the troops who died to save the Union when he was commander-in-chief. Some visitors seem pleased with the whole thing, like this couple I talked to. What brought you here?
We love this country,
Look, he's got a little 250 merch shirt.
and I celebrated the 200th anniversary at Fort McHenry, so it just seemed appropriate to be here for the 250, feeling blessed.
And what do you think of this whole show?
I think it's amazing, and I'm very, very proud of all the states who chose to participate in this wonderful event.
What do you think of the artists who dropped out, who were going to perform but then didn't perform, and some of the states that decided they didn't want to participate because they saw this as a little more politically tinged than it might have been otherwise?
I've chosen not to think about that. I've chosen to just be so proud of this country and the ability that we live here and have a wonderful, beautiful family. The rest is just noise.
I'm here with for the National Endowment for the Arts.
I see. That was created long after your presidency, but you approve?
Oh, I definitely approve of the arts. Are you kidding?
The current?
I talked the other day on a cloud. I was up there talking to John Kennedy, and he is so happy. I think this is wonderful. I think it is wonderful. The seeds that were sown 250 years ago have finally blossomed, have been growing and growing and growing and spreading and finally blossoming.
But others weren't so impressed. What do you think of all of this?
Hold on. I'm realizing as we watch these Trumpers, you guys are chatting chat. I think the issue is that the CDC, I Googled it. Hold on. World Health Organization has officially declared the end of the global health emergency for COVID. So I think that's why people are saying the pandemic's over, because the officials said it was over. And a lot of people who are compromised are saying it's not over, COVID's still here. And I think that's the discrepancy in the conversation that's confusing. So COVID is still around, it still exists, you can still get COVID and you can have consequences to that. In general, enough people have been vaxxed, enough people did the work, enough people locked down that we curbed what could have been a much worse scenario with COVID, right? The question is, when we say the pandemic is still here, but it's countering the Health World Organization, it's confusing to people. So the question is, if enough people have been vaxxed now, okay, if we've all done the work, is there a time in the future where masking all the time is not necessary? Is there any chance the government or the World Health Organization or the CDC or somebody can make that announcement and you would stop advocating for masking all the time? Do you know what I'm saying? Or what's the consensus? Because I can see why there might be an issue with how people are processing the conversation and the way that it's happening. That'd be a good thing to have a conversation around, right? Now that COVID is gone, right? But that there are things and there are reasons to be cautious. But I think the way we're saying it is confusing because none of us we don't know these things, right? Like we're relying on professionals and doctors and scientists to tell us what to do, like we did when they told us to lock down, okay? So if they tell us you don't have to wear a mask anymore, it's like, okay, right? So we have to just remember that people are laymen. Remember, we don't know things. And so we don't know. Why would we trust a random commenter over the CDC or over the World Health Organization? Like, why would I trust, you know what I'm saying? That's how the conversation has to happen. Now that you can't know more, obviously, but that you have to understand why people are struggling to understand it.
Not much.
Not much. And
I've been to state fairs all throughout the United States. This is terrible.
And how so?
It's a program-length advertisement for the president.
It's interesting. It's very interesting. I've never seen anything like this before, for sure, in my 27 years of living in Virginia and living near the DC area.
And does anything jump out at you?
No, nothing.
There's no cows.
She jumps out at me. What is she doing here?
There's no sheep. There's no goats. It's not a state fair without animals.
There's a butter cow, I'm told, at least in the Iowa booth, maybe.
It'll melt by tomorrow.
I'm totally underwhelmed. It's part political. That arch over there is, I think, promoting one of Trump's vanity projects. I compare this to the Smithsonian Folklife Festival that they do every year, which is wonderful. It really, talks about different cultures and countries. This is so bland, but I had to come down and see it.
the multiple stages at the event were largely empty, and a number of high-profile performers, including Martina McBride, Bret Michaels, Young MC, the Commodores, and Morris Day and the Time pulled out from their spots on the lineup after it was announced because they didn't know that it was going to be a partisan event put on by Trump's Freedom 250 organization. So while you're in Washington, are you going to maybe check out Ford's Theater, see what's happened to it since 1865?
No. I don't go near there anymore.
So interesting, like what people are doing with their weekends. You know, like would I go to this just for curiosity's sake? Honestly, nah, no. You know, I kind of thought it was interesting how empty it was though. And also just how lame it feels. Like, in so many ways, conservatives feel so lame. But then you'll hear stories about like young people going to the Catholic Church again, and people are going to church. And I'm just like, it's interesting how we seek to make meaning. Okay, how do we feel about the masking conversation, right? Because I see what you're trying to say, chat, where you're like, oh, if we over sanitize or we over, you know, but wearing a mask is not going to do that, right? Like I don't think that's even a part of that. Wearing a mask is not the same thing as like becoming so germophobic that you ruin your immune system. Like wearing a mask is just preventative care. I don't think it's analogous. If I'm not mistaken, the science of wearing a mask is not the same as like over sanitizing, never going outside. Like, it doesn't feel analogous to me at all. It feels very like not related. So it wouldn't make sense to, mask won't create a superbug population. Yeah, that's what maybe I just don't understand the science, but I feel like there's no way that would work that way. Yeah, Chad said the evolution comment is getting too much into survival. Well, I just don't know the science of that as much as we think we might. I don't think that relates to masks, specifically masking. That's all we're talking about. Notice that none of us had the vaccination conversation, even though we're vaxxed. Like nobody's sitting here and saying get vaxxed. We're kind of assuming you did. But the masking is just an extra layer of protection, like a condom. You know, I think of masking like condoms. Like condoms aren't going to prevent everything, but they're helpful. And they don't feel great, by the way. Nobody likes fucking in a condom, okay? Nobody likes having sex with a condom on. But we do it because it's for safety. And then, to be fair though, a lot of us find other ways around using a condom that would make us just as safe. So maybe that's what people are trying to do with a mask. What can I do that's kind of like, what can I do to get around wearing the mask? In the same way, what can I do to get around wearing the condom, but without risking anything? Is there a solution we have? You know? You said it has nothing to do with survival of the fittest. It's part of evolution, always has been. Yeah, I just don't think, I don't know who you are, so I don't know what you mean. Do you understand the science of how mask usage has a relationship to evolution and airborne viruses? I guess do you know what you're saying? Are you some conservative who's in my chat who's arguing about evolutionary science, evolutionary biology? Or are you like actually understanding what we're asking you? Because I don't know if you do. You're saying wearing a piece of cloth over my face that will help prevent people getting sick will somehow, evolutionarily speaking, cause a superbug that will kill everybody? Like, what are you saying? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you know what you're saying. This is the internet. People often say things they don't know. It just feels like that doesn't make any sense. You know, and in that way, here I am saying it's just a piece of fabric over your mouth. What's the big deal? I almost instantly convinced myself to wear a mask every day just by saying that out loud. My brain went, oh yeah, girl, it's just a piece of a cloth over your face. I was like, oh, I can do that. Just then, see how my brain went chink, like choop, click. And I was like, oh. Because, like, what's the big deal? That's so funny. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Chad said, are we talking about thick FFP2 masks or thinner surgery masks? I mean, maybe everything. So right now, the only thing we had available at our pharmacy was the surgical masks. That's all they had at the pharmacy. They didn't have any other options, so we grabbed the best we could. I figure I'll put this on and then maybe get a cloth mask to wear over with like a lining or something. And then this is not very expensive either. So I think there's multiple. I haven't opened it because I don't want to touch it and get it dirty. And I haven't left the house since we bought it. So I didn't even go out to buy them either. So I really don't, not that if I left the house every day, it'd be different. But guys, I'm really disabled. I don't leave the house, which, you know, sucks in its own right. This is three disposable medical masks. So there's 3 disposable masks. So I assume they're 1 wear each. So they'd go pretty quickly. So that would be the other part of it, is like it would have to be a budget, or we get a better mask, you know? Yeah. Chet says, I was looking at what China did for the H1N1, might be informative. Oh, that's smart to look into that. I know they became more rigorous about masking after usage after. Japan also followed suit because they're overpopulated in cities. Oh, hey, that's a good idea. Chet said, I work at a hospital and it's so normal for people to wear a mask all day, which again is kind of like a very convincing argument for me. Is like, if doctors are wearing masks every day, why wouldn't we wear a mask every day? You know, something like that. Not to say that we should. I'm not making a prescription, just to say that, oh, that could make sense. You know? Yeah. Chet said, as a human, I say firsthand, I perceive people with less trust without seeing their face innately. Yeah, I think I prefer to see people's facial expressions. When I used to do calls with people, I'd say, can I see your face? Because I read body language better if I can see your facial expressions. It's harder for me to understand people audibly. And that is true. And also, so again, I would love to get to the part of society where we don't have to wear masks. That's what we want. That should be what we want. I don't think we want to live in a world with masks. I don't think that's what people want. I think that's what people feel like we have to do. And that's the question, right? I don't think anyone here is saying we want to live in a world with masks. Like, I don't think that's what anybody wants. The question is, you know, how do we get to the point where we don't have to do that anymore without it coming at the expense of vulnerable people to the best of our ability? You know, Chat said in a hospital, yes, where there's a higher concentration of immune compromised people and cross-contamination control. I think when you live in a big city, so this is the other part that's probably causing issue. If you live in a big city and you are stuffed in a bus, girl, sometimes I'm on the Croatian bus and it is like so full. I am like rubbing up against people and I'm like, we are too close. And then when someone coughs, you can just feel everybody freeze. And when you're doing that every day, day in and day out, you're taking the bus home at the worst time possible, you might as well be in a hospital because you know half those people are sick. So then it's like, okay, what are we talking about here? Now, if you live in a rural area where you're driving an individual car and you're never really in anyone's face and you're never touching people's bodies, you probably think this is a crazy conversation. But I'm thinking about, okay, I'm on a bus, I'm next to people, somebody coughs, we're in a closed, you know, the windows aren't open. What do we do? Right? That's how I think about it. So you have to think about this too. Like, basically, I don't like the way you're in my chat arguing that we shouldn't wear masks when the conversation is, the ethical conversation is asking if we should wear masks, but you're saying we shouldn't. You've already made up your mind, but in a way that causes harm to people. I don't think you have the data that is coming from a perspective of caring about disabled people from the way you're typing. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm saying, I don't recognize your name either. Like, are you new to the channel? Like, is this the first time you're seeing my channel? Do you know this is a philosophy channel? Do you know that we're actually trying to be better people by being less bad? Do you know that this is not to threaten anybody or make anyone feel like they're doing not good enough? It's meant to force us to say, don't argue for the thing that's going to cause more harm if we're trying to have the argument to cause less harm, right? So I think anytime I hear people being anti-mask, I just assume you're a conservative, right? That's the way it's kind of sounding in chat, like you're anti-mask. And so if you want to clarify or let people know, you know what I mean? But that's kind of what it sounds like, you know? Chat says, I would love to stop wearing masks. I really hope, despite the horrible state of the world, a better vaccine can be developed and my family can stop. See, I love that. Yeah, I think that is the goal. You know, yeah. Okay, let's do this now. I was asked about my opinion on Chelsea Fagan and her conversation with Mel. I am not going to play the whole conversation with you. I watched it by myself. But this section I thought was interesting. It could lead us into having a larger conversation about what I want to talk about today.
Yeah.
So Mel, we've covered Mel before in the past. Chelsea Fagan's a financial channel. They're both in France because they both live in France. They're meeting for a collaboration because they both live in France. Chelsea lives in France half the year. She just bought a second house there for a milli. Mel's lived in France for many, many years, met her husband there, lives in France many, many years. So she's like friend or lives in France. So they met up in France to have this conversation in real life. Mel is also the woman who she makes kind of like feminist, anti-patriarchy content on TikTok, was also recently covered on my stream because the 4B movement girly went after her pretty hard. And Mel is 48, quite independent. And this section here I thought was really interesting. Yeah, Chad said this is the homosexual video. It is the homosexual video. And look, honestly, when Mel was talking, I was like, we have a lot of overlap with the kinds of bum guys we've dated. You know, men who like have all these hobbies they want you to pay for, but you don't even have that much money. I get it, girl. Same. Okay, here we go.
Strawberry farm in Argentina. I taught English in Chile. I taught English in Spain. It was like in
so
the
you
film
were really
industry.
like, so you were just like mostly in terms of making money, just like gig work.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, and this was why I was like, I hope I like fit into the financial diet podcast, because I am like, I don't spend money. I mean, I'm basically just like camping mentality all the time. Like that's why I was like, oh my God, I got to wear like a nice outfit, because I'm just like, I'm a little rug rat.
But also, listen, I want to say something to you about fitting in. We have people on this show who are just living their absolute best lives financially, multimillionaires entirely on their own, etc., who are completely set, early retirement, and so on. We have people who are in credit card debt, barely figuring it out, and they're,
I'm more in that
We just had
category.
I just interviewed someone recently who went into Debtors Anonymous at 62 and is like now just finally getting back to good at like in their 70s. And like, one thing I will say to my beloved commenters is you guys have a tendency to like, when we have a woman on who's got her shit together in a major way financially, you're like, this is unrelatable. Get on some women who are not, you know, completely perfect financially. And then we have women who are kind of muddling through financially, and they're like, well, you should have made better decisions and you're so irresponsible and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, so what you guys really want, and I think that this comes back, and not all of you obviously, but there's a certain contingency that is like this. And I think what I've taken from that is it takes us back to the martyring thing of like, you want a woman who has made 100% of the right decisions and continues to do so, is sort of like morally unimpeachable, has great character, has done all of the right things the way she should, but is still struggling. Because you want her to be, I guess, by whatever definition, relatable, and you want her to not, you know, have things be too easy, but you also don't want it to ever be her fault. You don't ever want it to be her making bad decisions. It has to be sort of this, again, this martyr, this victim narrative. And you, I think, are an interesting case of someone who your entire life were like, whether I'm thriving or whether I'm scraping by or whatever, it will be 1000% on my own terms.
Yeah, I mean, I basically have always just followed my heart or my intuition and just done what makes sense to me. And even though like, I mean, I have never made much money, I basically just had the opportunity to just explore all these things I wanted to do because I didn't have a man hijacking my life. I have never had a man taking all my time, energy, swaying my decisions. Everything was literally like, I lived like a man. And so that's why like, it's pretty easy for me to be married because I make some compromises, but I'm still, I can't easily be taken in, like self-abandoned because I have, I mean, especially all my 20s and almost in all my 30s, child-free, most of those not dating. I'm so good at just taking care of myself and doing my thing that I can't imagine a world in which I'm like centering a man at this point.
You live in Lyon, France. Bit of a random place for you to live. What brought you there?
I just fell in love with the city. I believe a lot of times a place can operate a lot like a relationship.
Okay, so I want to stop there. So, okay, first, a couple things to talk about. One, the story we tell ourselves about our life and the story we tell ourselves about our journey is so interesting. Two, Chelsea's desire to bring up, because Chelsea does read the comments, she knows what her audience is thinking, the idea and concept that the audience wants somebody who's more relatable, but also wants to criticize them for their bad decisions. So this falls into discerning whether or not a person is a good person. This falls into how do we cast judgment on people in a way that allows us to discern, to come to a realization that this person is either to be trusted or not to be trusted, or if this person isn't a good person doing too much, etc. And I think that it is true that we want a perfect victim. We want a perfect struggle story. We want a perfect come up story. We want the story of the person who struggled in a way that's relatable, but isn't enough to get them canceled in 20 years. We want the story that's like really intense, like we really, really struggled. Like, oh my gosh, you should write a book. Your life is so interesting. But then when we read the book, maybe we're like, oh my God, I'm so disappointed you did these horrible things. We want sort of the perfect person and the perfect, I struggled, but now I'm successful story. And that just doesn't exist. Now, I will say, and what I do find interesting is sort of as it connects to the conversation we've been having over the last 48 hours about like discernment of good people. Like, why am I critical of Chelsea? Why am I even critical? I've been critical of Mel too, right? I don't relate to Mel or Chelsea in the sense that we're different kinds of people, but I relate to a lot of their story all the same, if that makes sense. And what the difference and deviation in that relatability is ethics and values. It's background, conclusions, how we communicate. Something as simple as that puts us in a completely different category automatically. So people might say, and we're going to read this comment in a second, you know, why do you come down so hard? Why do I watch your content? You're always talking about other people. Again, there's layers to this because you have to remember all the people I talk about also make a living talking about other people. It's not just me. And I know I'm not just getting that comment uniquely. I think they all get those comments too. Like, why do you talk about other people for a living? Da, 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 da. But that's what we do. We all talk about each other. That's why the audience wants to talk about the guest Chelsea has on. That's why when Ramith does his channel, he has to tell his audience, you better be nice to my guests. You're lucky they're even coming on this channel to share and be vulnerable. And the comment section is like, Ramith is mad at us because we were so mean to the last guests. Like, yes, we're real people. And yes, we want to sit there and go like, oh my God. Like, even sometimes when I tell you my stories, sometimes even your reactions, I was like, oh my God, am I being judged? And then I was like, you know what? Judge me. Like, but also it does feel a way when people are like, oh my God, girl, what? And you're like, oh my God, you're right. What? But then that's the uncomfortable feeling you kind of do have to feel to get a little bit better because yeah, like I can't believe we all did those things. I think we're embarrassed. Like, yeah, like we are being judged. Now the question is, does that judgment come from a good place or a bad place? If it comes from a bad place, you're a bad person. If it comes from a good place, you're just pointing out the obvious. Like the person telling you the story knows. They already know. You know what I mean? They already know. But that's the point, is that I think what's hard about growth and becoming a less bad person and introspecting is that it's really, really, really uncomfortable. And it's so uncomfortable, we'd rather just not do it. So yesterday I got bombarded on my last video I made where I was criticizing the fans of Chelsea Fagan and the fans of Hassan Piker. And look at this person with a K-pop thumbnail who just went off in my comment sections, bro. Okay, and I was talking about edits and fan cams and asking for nudes for fans. And I was having all this. But the thing that made me laugh the most was this comment here. They said, now I understand why liberals annoy me so much. If you care so much about Hassan's edit in TikTok, that's the difference between liberals and socialists. The former focus on pettiness and absolutely meaningless things, while society's focus on socialists focus on real politics and change. Don't tell people, regardless of their gender, to edit their favorite streamers and bloggers on TikTok. This has nothing to do with patriarchy. It can be done by people regardless of their sex and gender. So now it's like, okay, so they're talking about, when we're talking about systems of oppression, like nobody cares about Hassan thirst traps. But when we're talking about our everyday existence, the men we date, the men who lead us into abusive relationships, the people who financially take advantage of us, the people Mel makes content warning you about, the reason Chelsea tells you to keep a separate bank account from your husband, it is connected to the Hassan thirst traps. It is connected to the fact that he retweets them or reblogs them. It is connected to the fact that he told fans that he loves getting nudes. It is connected to the fact that when he was professionally interviewed by a journalist, she said she saw people having blowjobs, people on his Snapchat sending nudes. She literally saw the videos and was shocked. Like the first video he opened up, he's like, oh, that's sex. That's literally like sex. Okay. It is all connected. So here we are sitting there. We're having two relationships, three, honestly, philosophically. Let me build you a little picture. So we're a human being, okay? And there's a multi-layer to us, okay? There's the person as we relate to, let's say ourselves here. Actually, I'll just write self, okay? Others, okay? And then universe, right? Now, most people don't even bother researching this one. We're mostly focused on this. And the others is systems, okay? And the self is when you're alone, okay? Now, most people also ignore the self because they actually avoid being alone. So they just have to think of themselves within systems, which means they actually never have to ask themselves what they're doing or how they're impacting anyone else. They can just sit there and say, I'm right. Because I hate capitalism. It's like, yeah, but that's like the bars in hell. Like being anti-capitalist is like the bars in hell. Being anti-fascist, like the bars in hell, you know? Because at some point, if the basic requirement of being a political leftist is being anti-capitalist, then a racist could be anti-capitalist. A homophobe can be anti-capitalist. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, being an anti-capitalist just doesn't mean anything at that point. It only refers to the system. So great. So when this person comes into my chat and goes, you're a womanizer, I'm sorry, you're totally inadequate. If a guy likes talking to girls and likes their attention, then he is a womanizer in your opinion. There's nothing wrong with that. If a person doesn't cheat on anyone and keeps boundaries, it's cute. You're taking everything too seriously. It's not okay. Let's see what timestamp they gave us. I don't know Hasan Piker, but based off of his actions, I have questions. Based off the fact that he collabed with Charlemagne, who openly admitted to assaulting women multiple times by drugging them, that's the timestamp? I was not ready, girl. I did not pre-watch. That's the timestamp? Like, I'm over it. So again, so the timestamp for that clip was a womanizer. I'm sorry, you're totally inadequate. Oh my God. If a guy likes talking to girls and likes their attention, he's a womanizer? And then you timestamp sexual assault? I don't know why we keep giving all these men a pass, except we genuinely do. And every time I say Hasan he's more and more closer to these other men. So God forbid something, I mean, I think enough has already come out about Hasan, but let's say more came out. And then people said, oh my God, how did we not know? You know, but here are all the receipts. This happens with every man in this political space. The men will have a controversy. Then everyone starts digging into their past and goes, oh, wait, it was there the whole time. I'm saying it's already here. It's obvious. Okay, Pass Brittany. Okay, Pass Brittany. So, okay, this is so interesting to me. Now, this plays into another comment that I got yesterday. We're going to expand upon it today and talk about it further. First, Mr. Holiday says, thank you for the super chat, says, what do you think of Hasan's wardrobe change? He is a political player now, so I guess it's necessary. Do you think he is a net good or bad? So I actually covered this. I don't know if you had a chance to see. I don't know if you're a new viewer, about the white supremacist tied to suits and Hasan's admitted decision to wear suits to cater to white supremacist grandmas who watch Fox News. He was asked in an interview, are you trying to like take suits back from the white supremacists? So he knows it's a white supremacist dog whistle. But there is a way to queerify the suit to make it less dog whistle for white supremacy. Do I think Hasan overall is a net good or bad? I don't know. In regards to what? It's a very broad question that I don't think is fair because we're not just one thing, which plays into actually, and I'll answer a follow-up question if you have one, plays into the comment that I got yesterday and today. We're going to talk about it. So I got this comment yesterday. We covered it yesterday on stream. And they did feel like they were misunderstood. And so they went back and forth with me on the comments last night. And I want to expand on it today because I think it's important. So they said, hey, I think I need some time to let emotions settle because I feel really misunderstood and hurt, which I just would like to acknowledge that it's very hard to hear tone in text. It's very hard to hear what you're actually asking. And I did request that we leave accusations out of philosophical questions because when we ask a question and there's an accusation, it forces the responder to then answer this question and then answer this question. And then it's, you know, and there is a way to good faith ask a question. I think Jack Sims does it really, really well because his voice is so non-confrontational that even when he's being confrontational, he sounds like, you know, some people just have that. I don't have that. Every question I ask sounds like an attack, but it's just the way that I speak. It's autism, okay? It's Taurus energy, girlies. It's West Asian. I don't know what it is, girl. But I think that sometimes it puts people on defense. So I try really hard to word my questions in a way that allows my voice to stay the same, but maybe the words help mitigate the response. So it says, hey, I need some time to let emotions settle because I feel misunderstood and hurt. Fair. They said, I never intended to imply you were jealous of Hassan. And I'm sorry, I didn't get your exact wording right. The point of asking is more about trying to get a clear idea of what a good leader could look like in a world of flawed people. So the implication of the first the question that I had gotten yesterday, which again, I'm not going to repeat everything because we covered it yesterday, was basically like an insinuation that I thought I could do Hassan's job better than him, which is not my statement. My statement is, if I was in Hassan's position, I would have to do the job better than him because I would see what a big responsibility it is, right? I mean, even recently he was interviewed about his misogyny problems, and instead of, genuinely saying like, I'm going to work on it so aggressively and you will see it eradicated from me in the next like 12 months. It was, I got to do it because like boys on the other side, like I'm trying to get through to them. So it's a justification, just like dark woke is a justification of, I'm going to use slurs to pwn the fascists and say that I'm still for marginalized people. Okay. So there's that layer. So when I say I would have to do my job better than Hassan's, obviously it's based off my my philosophical framework and my ethical framework. Okay. So then I would obviously, I'm making a sort of a judgment that, yes, I don't think Hassan's misogyny is good. And yes, I don't think him collaborating with women or men who have openly bragged about drugging women to have sex with them is good. And I don't like the way he's chosen to wear suits to specifically his reasoning appeal to white supremacist grandmas on Fox News. And yes, if I was in his position, I would never want to signal safety to those people other than I will feed and clothe you and advocate for your rights and universal health care and all these other good things we want. Okay. So that's what I meant by that. But see, the question for them in their head was not an accusation, but the implication of their sentence structure caused it to become one. So it was a little difficult. Now, to be fair, at the end of this, there's a really good question they ask that I think is important that we talk about. So they said, 2, I know universal morals don't exist. I know you need to make these discernments yourself. I'm not trying to put that in your hands. I know that power is in my hands to make judgments. I want to understand the mechanism of doing so. Like if someone with depression is struggling to shower every day and asked, how do you manage to do that? They're responding with shower by every day. That's not super helpful. I'm looking for more tools to make these judgments without just following a bubble script. It makes me feel empty and suicidal, but also not know how to judge. And no, I don't have a good sense in self-trust, I think. And I am trying to change that by building my own system of bad and good and right and wrong. I do have a video on values that I forgot to even bring up here. It's older, but it might be helpful. Let me see if I can find it really fast. But that might help. Oh my God, bro. I hate that YouTube does this. Hold on. That might be helpful where when I was turning 30, I sat down and wrote out my values, like literally in a script. And that really helped. And that might be something you can do. Remember your values though? Yeah, here it is. How do you figure out your personal values? But just a reminder, guys, this video is outdated, so keep that in mind. But also your personal values are just the foundation in which you build your morals and your ethics, which are all 3 different things. So they're not the same thing, okay? So you do have to deconstruct patriarchy and, Christian learning, and you do have to deconstruct a lot of what you've learned in society to even understand that. So I don't know where your level of understanding is at, which is a big problem. Like, I don't know where everyone's coming from. I don't know if this person, they've never read a philosophy book. They're 15 or 35. I don't know their background. I don't even, you know what I'm saying? So if somebody comes to me and says, Brait, which philosophy book should I read? And I recommend to you the hardest fucking book in philosophy ever read because the language is outdated and you're going to need a dictionary. You're going to read it, feel overwhelmed and give up. So I don't like these questions from people when they're like, hey, what should I do? Again, like you're kind of like, it's like coming to a professional chef and saying, hey, how do I get a Michelin star? I've never cooked a day in my life. The first place to start is here. So you've already, step 1, you're looking, you're asking questions. The second step is to recognize you won't have answers just because you're looking for them. They are discovered. So you keep looking. You use curiosity and open-mindedness to look for those answers. And you keep doing it so things will change, right? Okay. You said, I have BPD and struggle with splitting and black and white thinking. So if you're struggling with BPD, this is your mental health. We talk about being a whole human being. So philosophy and mental health are two different things. They do overlap and they do impact one another. So I would make sure I'm doing my DBT, maybe read some Marsha Linehan, A Life Worth Living. Okay. Let's see. Do I have her book here? You can read Marsha Linehan's A Life Worth Building or Worth Living. Worth Living, this is a memoir about her life. That's one place you can start. You can get a DBT workbook and you can go to DBT therapy, solo or group. That's like the first place you start with your mental health, okay? And then while you're working on your mental health, and this is why I love DBT because it incorporates Buddhism and Eastern philosophy, you start engaging with your philosophical beliefs. What do you think right and wrong is? What did you learn in your childhood? What did your parents teach you about right and wrong? And then you start to ask yourself, well, you know, my parent believed this. Do I believe this? And then you as the adult in the room start to form your own values, your own relationship with these things. Okay. So you have to start by questioning where you came from and what do you want to keep and what do you want to get rid of, right? Okay. Number 3. When I brought up looking to your audience, I think there was a bit of projection on my end. I appreciate that self-awareness. They said I struggle with discernment and get very influenced by those around me. And when I heard you say what we think, I put my experience of that on to you, and I'm sorry. But this is why I am even doing this whole scale. I am trying to work on to help me figure out how I feel and understand how you built your morals and apply them. I have seen your old videos on values. Oh, my bad. So they have seen this video. Okay. But I'm still trying to figure out how to apply them. How do you know who to listen? How do you know who to listen in your audience? I want to understand how someone would decide who they build community with. I struggle with getting close to people because I don't know how to do this. Okay, so this is layered probably with your borderline and with whatever you're going through, and that's valid, okay? This is learned. So we do have to take the chance and risk making the wrong decision. You've seen me do this in real time with collaborations I've done with YouTubers. You've seen me in real time give a chance to somebody who eventually, you know, became a harasser or sent their audience after me, or like, you know, I in good faith. You have to sort of take a risk in a sense. You have to have an audience member you're good faith with. And then if over time they prove themselves to be a bad source of data, or they don't react in a way that makes sense with the situation, or they're acting out, they're not signaling enough safety, you know, then you can kind of ask, you know, I think it's hard because you kind of have to put it into practice to see if it works, which is why there's no such thing as like a perfectly good person in that sense, because we all have to kind of burn our hand a little bit to learn. So I don't blame you for struggling with this. I think most of the world does, but I think you should recognize and give yourself a little credit for even trying, because most of the world isn't. You know, like the fact that you're trying to figure out your own values and build your own script is incredible, right? It's very, very hard. And so I would give myself a little bit of credit and give yourself a little bit of like, you're doing it. You're doing the thing you're supposed to be doing. The question now is to test it. And this is where you get good data. So I love informed consent. I think in my life, I've grown up in a bubble where there was like no consent. And then there was consent in the liberal sense and the like, How I Met Your Mother, you know, sense and the Friends sense, you know. And then I ended up exploring bubbles that taught me about informed consent, which was not being ashamed and saying things up front and telling people all those things that could make them reject you, and then engaging in any relationship or friendship. Usually when we think about consent, we think of sort of ways to trick people into finding us attractive to have sex. As an example, I'll get a girl drunk, I'll lie to her about my job, I'll say this, that, this. And informed consent is more or less not doing any of those things. Informed consent is also saying, I'm not going to answer that question. And you can make a decision about your risk-aware profile. And you can say, oh, that I'm not willing to take that risk if you're not willing to tell me, and then you can go your own way. Informed consent doesn't mean you tell everybody everything they ask. It's saying you have no intention of deceiving, lying, hiding, or tricking. So a value of mine, you know, that value of not lying builds the ethical practice of informed consent and the moral practice of informed consent, which I didn't always have because it was something I had to learn later by interacting with a community that valued it. and being taught by people in the community how to do it, right? And so that's that conversation, right? Chet said, what is the difference between sharing BPD resources and philosophy resources? You refused to give a starting point when someone asked about philosophy. Because BPD specifically, DBT was created for BPD. It's like specifically done by a woman with borderline, specifically for people with BPD. And Marsha Linehan is the source for BPD recovery. And so DBT is like the therapy for most people with BPD, and people without BPD. So it's like there's one resource for BPD, one. And it was made by a woman who was doubted by the medical community, hospitalized for borderline, and came back and told the world, go fuck yourself. I'm going to help these people. And she did it. And so, yeah. And DBT works for all kinds of things. Like Chet says, DBT works for my autism. I love DBT. I did solo DBT, was great. So that's why there's not one resource for philosophy. There's like thousands of books, right? There's like thousands of research, it's like thousands of places to start, thousands of conversations around philosophy. DBT in borderline, there's one. There's one. So that's why I recommend it. And it obviously changed my life and I recommend it, you know? Okay. Let's see. They said, I never meant to make an accusation. The way you understood the Hassan part really shocked and upset me. I'm not sure which part that is in response to, but that goes to show us how communication is such a flawed thing, right? Hold on. I'm going to drink some water. That's why communication is so hard, right? 5, never meant put your morals on you don't have. Trying to understand how you make discernments. Like I can pick words out of the values list, but how does someone apply them? Well, you apply them to yourself. So that's the confusing part about morals. They're for you. So every single situation I have, I take into consideration my morals. So wearing a mask. Is wearing a mask a part of my morals? Harm reduction is a part of my morals, but harm reduction doesn't apply it applies in every aspect of what I do, but it must be weighed within reason. So I might come to the conclusion that wearing a mask every single time I go out does actually harm reduce, or I might say within certain circumstances, it actually harm increases. And that has to be a possibility because there will be circumstances. And so the question is, what if I made a rule for myself that said, every time I leave the house, I ask myself, should I wear a mask today? And I implement that moral and I say, is wearing a mask today harm reduction? And then if it is yes, I wear the mask. And if it's no, I don't wear the mask. And that's one way I would apply the moral, but I would have to think. And most people don't think. So the privilege of thinking is that privilege that I have. I have a life that I've created to give me a chance to think and be aggressively and brutally honest with myself about the conclusions I come to. So that's the way you and I hope this isn't just for this chatter, this is for all of you. Like it's the same reason when I go to the store, I'm not vegan, I'm plant-based. So I go to the store and usually I look at things I'm not supposed to eat and I say, do I want to eat this today? And then I make a decision every time I'm at the store, like not to eat the non-vegan, non-plant-based things. But I ask myself every time, not on purpose. I mean, not like a robot. It is actually something I'm challenging in myself. So you're not a robot. You're a person and you have a background and a history and a biology and a brain that is yours. I could not even fathom to guess your lived experience. I can try, but you are having a nuanced, complex, layered experience. Do not create a robotic scripted life. Create a deep and meaningful relationship with your existing and existence. Every time I ask myself these questions, I'm having a very intimate moment with myself. I am not having a casual, flippant situation. I'm trying to have a very intimate, real moment with myself when I ask myself these questions in hopes to have, again, a deeper relationship with our biological experience. It's like the difference between being on a date and your partner's on the phone the whole time. That's not a very deep and meaningful experience. Or you're looking into each other's eyes and breathing together and meditating together. There is a difference between having a deep experience and having a superficial one. And most people are having superficial relationships with their values, their morals, and their ethics. That's why the world is the way that it is, because most people say, oh yeah, I'm pro-life. And then they go and vote for the death penalty, or they vote for the genocide in Palestine, and they don't even question. They eat animals. They don't even question what pro-life could even mean on a deeper level. Okay? All right. You said, let's see. They said, like, I can pick words of the values list, but how does someone apply them? How can you tell a bad person from a good person doing bad things? I'm not saying you must do what Brit says, but how do you do these things so I can figure it out for myself? I'm just looking for more tools. How do you know good from bad data? Is that more clear? Yes, it is actually. I need more tools for discernment, not an objective morality. This is my first reaction, and it was very emotionally driven, so I don't know if I'm hearing you clearly, but I'm sort of offended that you heard me saying I am making my own system for judgment, and I saw a member, and then you saw I'm a member and still thought I'm looking for objective morality. I just want to figure out how I can be strongly rooted in my own subjective morality so that I am not so easily knocked around by the world. Also, I didn't mean you never say anything nice or positive or kind, but I don't get a clear idea of what you would label as a good person and isn't just a person running from their own badness. But you did say you don't really believe in good people, just that badness exists. But I think I really need to find a way to see and to find goodness in the world, like real virtue in people. Maybe you don't believe in that concept, but I can't fully let go of that idea. Even if it's subjective, I still think it exists. Okay. And then I said, hey girl, sometimes it's hard to hear tone through text. Maybe we couldn't convey things well that way. Example, I don't understand your last point. Why do you think that I don't believe good people exist? I can try to expand on stream, but in philosophy, when we say good or bad, we are saying something different than when non-philosophy people say it. There is no way to judge a whole person because a person never exists wholly in good or bad. They only exist in moments. When we cast judgment on their moment, it's good or bad, but moments can last a lifetime. So we call that person good or bad, but those concepts are reductive. So they aren't even real concepts when judging people. All people are good, and the world is a terrible place because of all of those good people. This is philosophy. Wishing you well and hope this helps. They said, I'm struggling with the idea that we are just moments, though. These moments add up, and we have like character, right? Like you have this idea of philosophical evil, but is there no high self equivalent? Does that help? It feels especially important to me to know how to spot someone who has a strong virtue, as in holds themselves to a high moral standard, versus ego pretending to be. Like, yes, it should show through their actions, but when there are so many ways I could perceive a person through their actions, I think this is something that gets me a lot thinking who might a community uplift as a leader. I hope this helps. Okay, so we kind of talked about this a little bit the other day. We'll do it again. In an ideal situation, again, we would not have a leader. We would have a collective of people. So instead of having a leader that all of us depend on, okay, we would have a system instead that was all of us or all of the group of people we put in charge lifting us up, right? The problem is like what happens if the leader is not a great person? The whole thing collapses. But if we have a group of people, one person can have a bad day and we can replace them with somebody else until they're better, or just keep replacing people. But see, if one person is out, the foundation is still solid. The issue is when we talk about Hassan or leaders or the biggest voice on whatever side, we're giving them the ability to be the end all of our movement. So if one person goes, it's gone. And I'm saying we don't need one person as the leader. We need groups of people who, when they're in a wholesome, good moment with good character, they're in charge. When they leave those moments or have bad days, we replace them and bring them back. Same thing with your family. Your parent, your mother could be the most amazing mother, have a good sense of character. Then she breaks her leg, becomes a grumpy person, really short-tempered. She's on meds. She's really struggling. And all of a sudden, she went from an amazing babysitter for the grandkids to somebody the kids can't be around because she's in the middle of a moment. She's not being punished because we take the kids away from her. She's being seen for where she is, struggling, angry, frustrated, having an identity crisis. So we're giving her the space to say, hey, we're here for you. You'll see the kids when necessary, but you don't have to babysit them anymore. We see you're in the middle of it. We're accepting people for the moment of existence they are experiencing instead of assuming they will be this way forever because they're in a moment. Same thing when people like, some people have bad moments. Now, bad people have good moments. Okay, I wanted to use this example. So you know who Saddam Hussein is, yeah? So if you ask my family, who was Saddam Hussein? They'll say he was the terrorist dictator who imprisoned my grandma, whose military soldiers came and banged on my mother's door as a child, whose military presence in Iraq threatened the life of my family. If you ask our family friends, who is Saddam Hussein? They'll say, this is the man who got my mother medical emergency care and saved her life. We owe him everything. And Saddam Hussein is both of those people because he gave two different groups of people different sides of him. The question is, who is he most of the time and who is he sometimes? And this is the struggle. Does Saddam Hussein is he a good person? Does he have a good sense of character? Is he reliable? Or did he have a moment of compassion? So when we have these conversations, the only tool I can give you is to, yes, you have to start believing in yourself, but more than that, you got to read more. Like you got to watch more documentaries. You have to research it and really start to experience people for what they were and really learn about them, right? And so you have to really think about that. Chat, I don't know what you're saying. You write weird comments, bro. You said Hassan will never be a leader. Hassan has an identity crisis. He can't differentiate between being Muslim, white, liberal, etc. I don't know what that means. You know what I mean? I don't know what you're trying to say. Are you trying to be helpful? Or are you just like, I don't know what you're saying. And then you even said earlier that Marsha Linehan's been challenged. There have been multiples. Yeah, I don't know what bubble you're in, but sometimes, I don't know, these comments feel weird to me a little bit. I don't know. They feel like they don't make sense in my bubble, and I don't know what bubble you're from. But the only people that I've ever seen really challenge Marsha Linehan are misogynists and haters. And even the way you said that about Hassan's issue is not, Hassan will most likely be a leader, right? Like it just might be for the DSA or the Democrats or something, but I don't know. But like whether or not he'll be a part of a coalition of leaders, I mean, he technically is a leader right now. So like, I don't know what that means when you say he'll never be a leader. I mean, he technically is kind of one right now. You said I'm a Black Somali Muslim woman. But what's your perspective? I hear you, but where's that perspective from, right? Like, are you saying that from a perspective like he'll never be a leader in the leftist movement or a more progressive movement? Are you saying he'll never be, because he is white, he is a Muslim, but he's not a Muslim because he's not practicing. He is white if we talk about blackness, but he's not. So I guess I just don't understand the perspective you're coming from. Like, I hear you, but I'm not, it's not clicking yet. Right. By the way, you know how much I'm not Team Hassan, but Chat said, I think Hassan has both good and bad moments, but yes, he's very influential. Yeah, I think that's the problem is like whether we like it or not, he is the leader. I mean, whether he likes it or not, he is the guy. You know what I mean? It's just not, I don't know if we even get to choose our leaders. And that's the question we have to ask ourselves next. But again, when we come down to personal values and morals and deciding if a person is a good or bad person, lots of people have good and bad moments. A lot of people are good and bad people. So I remember I did a panel with people arguing that people are inherently good. And what I meant by that was like, there is no such thing as a good or bad dog, but you might call a dog that bites somebody's leg or mauls a baby as a bad dog, right? You might say that's a bad dog, or you might say bad dog. what you're saying is the action is bad, but now we have to question if the whole of the person is bad. To be honest, I don't think a whole of a person could ever be anything other than it is in the moment. And that includes animals. So I was thinking about Alzheimer's because Danny Glover, I think, came out and said he has Alzheimer's. And I was watching the interview with Robin Williams' wife, who said like he didn't have bipolar. He had dementia, I think. And I was like researching this idea of like when your brain starts to go, because there's also that philosophical question, like if you're your brain, then why are we keeping people alive who are in support, who have things like Alzheimer's and dementia? But then from a more spiritual perspective, I couldn't imagine not valuing the vessel in which kept the consciousness of my partner. And what if we have medical discoveries that end up allowing them to become more cognizant? And then there's like all of these conversations to be had about disability and how many people are disabled and ignored, and we're just waiting around for the right science, right? So look at this. Hold on, let me find this video while I talk to you. But, there's so many questions at play here. So I don't really buy into this idea that we're just our brain. And so if our brain goes, we're not here anymore. Like, this is why my biggest fear is just being put into a hospital because you get Alzheimer's and people think you're not there anymore. Like, what a terrible, terrible way to think about human beings. What a terrible way to think about anybody, right? And at the same time, I can see why people come to those conclusions, because the thought of not being able to speak to somebody or communicate with somebody or have them understand you is so terrifying. And this goes back down to, are we truly prepared for a future in which our partners get dementia or our children get Alzheimer's? Like, what about childhood dementia? You know what I mean? Okay, let me see if I can find you this video really fast. Hold on, let me lock in. Looking. Oh, man. You can't even remember when I saved this video. It'd be really great if I could find it, though. Oh, man. Oh, man. Hold on, girlies. Hold on. Where could this video be? Oh. I really saved this too long ago. I just thought about it. That's why I wasn't even gonna show up today, but I just thought about it. Okay. For those just listening, I'm just looking. I have too many videos, let me tell you. Okay. Here, for those who need something to look at the screen, you can watch all the videos I have saved. Okay, let me scroll back up because it can't be lower than this, I think. So let me start looking, start really thinking about what he looked like so I can find it for you. Okay, it's gotta be. And if I can't find it, I'll just explain it to you. Let's see. Still looking. If you're just listening, still looking. Damn, I'm not seeing it. Come on. Ugh, I don't think it's all the way up here. Oh, wait. It is. Okay. This is an amazing video that I saw on the internet about a disabled man named Sam who, it's titled Miracle Drug Allows Sam to Talk for just 1 hour a day. And it really just brings into question this idea of what a disabled person's life is like, the fear we might have over being in this situation, and the callousness in which people talk about, oh, you're just your brain and nothing's going on and what could possibly be going on in there. So here we go.
You
are talking, aren't you? How do you feel?
Right.
You feel great, don't you?
I feel good. For 15 months I was trapped in my body.
For 15 months I was trapped inside my body.
I could not communicate verbally at all.
At 23, a series of major strokes left Sam unable to talk or walk. And this is why we say we're all going to either end up disabled, or you just never know if you're going to be disabled. So when we have conversations about people living with disabilities or having a quote healthy child or whatever else, you just don't know what your life is going to look like. You know, so you got to prepare, you got to think about these things with love and compassion. Doctors suspected irreversible brain damage, but Sam was still there. He was trapped, unable to communicate.
I'm just going to take him to the toilet before I give him the drug. This is the drug called Stilnox, which we used to give Sam. I gave him 15 milligrams, and I sat there with great trepidation thinking he's either going to be okay or it's not going to work, something terrible could happen. And slowly, his face just started to relax. Come on, we can have a hug. And then he just started joining in on conversation.
Hi mate, how are you?
How are you?
That's good.
For 15 months that you couldn't talk, what was the one thing that you thought, if I can talk again, I'll say it?
I love you so much,
Oh, I love you too. One of the first things he said was, let's get married tomorrow. And I said, don't you think that's a little bit quick? And he said, okay, next week. On second thoughts, 2 weeks.
Have you been wanting to talk that whole time, but
Oh,
the words
yeah.
just not coming out?
Oh yeah. Most definitely. The fact that I can talk now, and in an hour or so I won't be able to talk. It sucks, it really sucks.
Oh, okay. So obviously we love this, yeah? Like we love this. Oh. And we want this. We want to bring connection back to people's lives. We want to give people a chance at the best quality of life. So when I think about my morals and my values, I think about how do I make this happen for more people? What can we do in life to make this possible for more people? And right now, that is not the conversation we're having. You know, especially it's Disability Awareness Month. We're having a very different conversation with this Trump administration. We're talking about taking people like Sam and putting him in institutions. He's in Australia, but if he was in the US, taking people like Sam and putting him in institutions, ignoring our disabled kids, our disabled adults, taking our disabled unhoused and putting them away so we don't have to look at them, you know, which has been done before. Like I say, life repeats itself, cycles repeat itself. And so we might think we've accomplished something, like we reached a great understanding. We finally got to a certain place. And then it's like, but did we, if it's repeating? It's because new people, new babies come into the universe and they fall for propaganda. Everyone thought Gen Z was going to be the greatest left population of kids. And then Andrew Tate got a hold of their brains, and they just melted, or at least the boys, And so when we think about what we think will happen, it's why I always believe like we have to do the work every day, all of us always. And so, going back to what the chatter said about Hassan, like, don't get me wrong. I don't think he'll do the work. He is already a leader, but I agree with you. Like, he'll never do the work. And I think that's what you kind of were saying. Like, he'll never do the work to deconstruct these things, most likely. So let's go back to this original chatter. Why do I think that about Hassan Piker? Because that's an easier place to go since they mentioned Hassan as well. Why do I think that, oh no, not this comment, this one. Why do I feel like Hassan might not do better, or how do I make that decision? So I use the data. So what data do we have? Hassan's in a very privileged position. He has more than enough resources to do better, get better, and actively laughs his way away from questions that in any way try to hold him accountable for those actions. So the data that I have, and I think that we all understand, is that he's not going to do the work. Much like you don't live for the potential of the boy you're dating who talks this big game about, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Like, if we waited around. So going back to, stay with me here. I don't have it on the screen anymore. Shoot. The Mel conversation with Chelsea. Mel says, I never had a man who like kept me from, I'm very independent. Like, either I'm going to be, she even said it later in the interview, like, better to be single than married to the wrong person kind of thing. Same thing I said. Even recently I've been reviewing Blue Therapy for members. Exactly. Like, but that's the thing. In the micro sense of liberating yourself away from needing a husband to live a joyful life, you need to liberate yourself away from needing the system to change for you to have a good life. That's not to say that while you're having an individual good life, you're not going to fight the system that is obviously trying to threaten that good life. What you're doing is you're practicing a radical acceptance of being an animal on the planet, not living in objective reality or objective morality, and trying to do the best you can with existence. So I come to the consensus I do with the data that I have, but I'm always open to that data changing. And this is the part that is really hard, because now it's going to feel like you're a wishy-washy, a changing girly. I was telling my partner the other day about like how we were talking about Palestine and how I feel like I was so late to the game this time around, October 7th. I was just like, I was in a really like, the transition period was so hard for me. But then here I was making a video 10 years ago about like what Israel was doing to Palestine. And I'm like, what is that? And it's like the version of Britney's brain that knew even that long ago it was wrong. Something was wrong. Actually, it was more than 10 years ago. It was much longer than 10 years ago. It was 2011. So it's like, something is really wrong. Like something is so wrong here. But then that Britney also later on ended up even creating content where I interviewed someone who was a part of the IOF because they were trans, and I thought it was cool that Israel paid for their trans surgery. And I was like, oh my God, that's so like progressive. I didn't know this about Israel. And then I remember Muslims at the time and Arabs at the time were like, Britney, why are you interviewing this girl? And I was like, I didn't get it. Because I was like, wait, like, isn't that great that like Israel paid for her trans surgery, like her gender affirming surgery? Like, I'm so confused. And then eventually, you know, these things happened and my brain was like so confused about why this was wrong. And then eventually, the more I read, and this is always the answer, the more I educate myself, it's always the answer, girlies, the more it's easier to understand your values and implement them. I really think it's not just about reading the books. It's about challenging yourself while you're reading the book, learning a lesson that changes your life while you're reading the book. That's what I'm trying to say. Because I think FD has even said that Hassan's well-read. Hassan might be well-read enough, but does Hassan continue reading? Is he deconstructing? Is he going line by line? You know, Chelsea Fagan reads lots of books, but is she using them to challenge herself? So when she makes a decision or chooses to do something, does she know why she's doing it? Or does she just feel like, hey, I earned it. I worked really hard and I earned this. Yeah, we all work really hard, girl. Right? Like, doesn't everybody work really hard? So this idea of I worked really hard, I earned it, that's such a conservative notion to me. But Hassan will say, we're not a poverty cult. He'll say, I don't believe in poverty cults. I think all of us should have something, which is more like champagne socialist. Okay, fine. The idea for me, that's their values. It doesn't have anything to do with what I do. It only has something to do with how I react to another public figure with a microphone who is wealthy enough to make these decisions while advocating and saying we're on the same side. We are on the same side when it comes to fascism. We are not necessarily on the same side when it comes to what do we do with our positions of power. And that's the deviation here. So when this chatter says like, I don't understand your thought with this or your thought with this, what they're forgetting is like, it's very layered. Let me draw you another paint picture. So, okay, here I am. This is how I think. So here's Britney. So again, there's Britney who's at home. Okay. There's Britney who is working. Okay. There's Britney who is making friends. Okay. And there's Britney who has a family. Okay. And there's Britney who's falling in love. Okay. What I'm showing you is relationships. We're in relationships, right? I have a relationship to myself when I'm at home. I am in relation to my job and you give me feedback. I have a relationship to my friends and they give me feedback. I have a relationship to my family and they give me feedback. I have a relationship to the person I choose to fall in love with and engage with, and they give me feedback. And we are working up against each other constantly. That's a lot of noise. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of obligation. That's a lot to consider. So sometimes I cut it off. I cut it off and I go, okay, everybody shut the fuck up. I love you. Be quiet. And I go back into my home and I meditate in silence and I erase the existence of this. And I go, for this moment in time, I don't have any of this. This doesn't exist. And then I sit with myself and say, okay, Britney, here we are again. Okay, here we are. What are we doing? Who are we? What is our purpose in this moment without any input? What do we think is right and wrong? And then we remember, okay, that we do have these connections and that they matter, and we appreciate this feedback, and we're ready to listen again. Because sometimes I do think we get overwhelmed. So to this chatter, you said you had a very emotional, like a feeling of not being heard maybe, or maybe you felt like I misunderstood you. Fair. But you're also getting feedback from somebody you might not need feedback from. So, or like you said, I think you said you were going to go like sit with your feelings. Also good. Because I might be that thing that's giving you a lot of feedback, and you're like, put a line down in the sand, say, and go meditate with your thoughts. And then when you're ready, come back and see maybe what this video helps you with. But the idea is like, we are getting feedback all of the time. And it existed before the internet. It's more because of the internet, but it always existed, you know? And that's the thing that I think is so important, because what an overwhelming situation, especially if you have BPD, especially if you're femme, especially if you've been raised under patriarchy, especially if you're black and brown, especially if you're disabled, especially, we're doing so much work just to sit there and say, who am I? What is my thought? And not to mention that philosophers will debate every day if there even is an original thought. Okay? Hold on. Just my head. Okay, let's see. So all of this to say, you are not wrong for struggling to figure this out. If it was easy, I'd be out of a job. If it was easy, the world would be at peace. If it was easy, we'd all be great people. But it's not. It's really hard to be a good person because it's hard to figure out your values and it's hard to implement them. Okay? Chad said, Brittany, I appreciate this. I may be in a bad mood. It's giving teacher sometimes and almost not engaging the intelligence of your chat. Not engaging? Is that what you, or not gauging the intelligence of your chat? It's giving teacher sometimes and almost not gauging the intelligence of your, I mean, are you saying like sometimes I give teacher and I feel like I don't give enough credit to my chat? Because I do think my chat, for the record, you're beautiful and smart and capable and honestly genius. Which is so funny because we talked about that yesterday. Like this person originally yesterday accused me of asking the chat for their input too much because they were afraid that I was like not coming to my own conclusions. But I do trust that you guys know things I don't know. And sometimes we do get the trolls come in. We get like people come in, they confuse me. Sometimes I will have people who have been on my Discord or in my community for years and they still don't get it. And sometimes I got to eventually ban those people because they make everyone like, they confuse people. It's a very weird thing. I actually, out of all, I really appreciate the way you guys get to witness me having to weigh the pros and cons of like blocking people, banning people, muting people, because I'm always like, oh, this goes back to this original commenter. When do I make the choice to write somebody off? Right? Or their original comment was about 3 strikes, you're out. How do I make the decision to write somebody off? Man, it's really not about me writing you off. It's about me radically accepting that you've hit your ceiling. So let's wrap up with this comment and then we'll go to the next part of stream. Everybody hits their eventual ceiling of understanding. So you know how yesterday I made you this picture? I'm going to redo it for you guys because I actually had another thought about it. So I drew you guys this picture yesterday in stream where I said, when, actually I did it this way. When you're a Republican and you're a centrist and you're a leftist, and let's say you're a lib, okay? And let's say you're a libertarian, you know? Okay, when you're going through these, okay, let's say you're a leftist, okay? And the goal is just to get on the other side of centrist, okay? That's the goal. You're already in a better position. Anybody on this side is automatically in a better position. Everybody on this side is in struggle mode, bro. So the Republicans, the really hardcore conservatives, they have a lot of barriers to jump through just to get on this side where the libertarians are, which is not much better. Just to hop over to this side where the centrists are, or sorry, hop over to this side where the centrists are, just to hop over to the side where the libs are. And they're still not even there. We're asking people who are on the right to do a lot of introspective work that just sounds like I don't know about that, bro. So again, because we don't even want them to end up here on the lib. We want them to keep going to the left. So imagine I'm like, hey, just get over this other side of centrist. And they're like, okay, I did it. And I'm like, great, now keep going. They're like, Jesus, does it ever end? And the answer is no. But Okay, I thought about this last night. This is what I think about before I go to sleep. But the cool thing about people is they don't move linearly in the same way as everybody else. There are gonna be, and this is kind of the hope Hassan has, which I think is a little foolish, but I'll give him some social credit in saying that it is technically possible that some Republicans are open-minded enough at the perfect moment that when they hear Hassan talk or me, they might skip going through the barriers and realize there is a tunnel underground that puts them right in the lib camp. Now, again, I don't think it's Hassan or I that are changing their minds. I think it is their realization, because at the right time they were open-minded and had the realization of like, oh, I don't even need to go through these barriers. I don't need to go the hard way. I'll take the easy route and go in this great underground, pathway and skip all of this pain into this moment. That is somebody's story. 100%. But see, they usually land at lib. And lib is still too conservative for the left. But hey, I'll take it. But it's not the end goal. But that might be their ceiling. That might be it, girl. That might have taken them 60 years, by the way, or 20 years or whatever. But maybe this is it. Maybe they'll never be able to go further than this. And in an ideal world, they would. But in a less than perfect world, I'll take it. So in a less than perfect world, I'd rather just deal with liberals than I would ever want to deal with conservatives. But in order to deal with liberals, we would have to really dismantle white supremacy, patriarchy, and capitalism. And even saying that liberals love capitalism and they think the system just needs to be reformed. So it's also, okay? So I acknowledge that there are going to be exceptions to how people get or become more introspective. And yet there is a typical rule. And this is the rule that fundamentally changed my life and why I approach the work that I do the way that I do. A majority of people are going to do what? Okay, I want to vocalize, or I want to advocate for the minorities and the marginalized. That's my special interest. That's my group. That's me. Okay, so I'm a little selfish in this. I don't really care about the majority because that's not me. Okay, so I don't want to help those people. I feel like they got it. They're the majority. They're better off than I am anyway, so have fun. Okay, and yet, because I'm advocating for the marginalized and the minority, it means that we have to, in many ways, we have the privilege of knowing we know better, but we're still not better than the conservatives. We know better, but that doesn't make us better. And because we know better, we have to have the humility to recognize how hard it is for them and to also stand our ground when they threaten our quality of life or when they hurt other people. So going back to that original commenter of like, Israel is our enemy, nobody is our enemy. Enemy is a patriarchal concept created so men can justify the harm they do on the planet. I have no enemies. I only have people who at most are maybe obstacles. And the question is what I do with this obstacle. I can push it out of the way. I can ask it to move. I can kill it or destroy it. I can move it somewhere completely different. I could do a lot of things with an obstacle. But I don't have enemies because the insinuation of an enemy isn't entitled to me being cruel to this entity that is an enemy, because the word enemy has too much baggage. And I don't want to think of other people as my enemies. I'd rather think of other people as a force meeting a force, an obstacle meeting an obstacle, something like this, yeah? Chat says no enemies, just disagreements. Disagreements too chill of a word when we're talking about genocide. So I would say no enemies, just philosophical evil. Like no enemies, just people with good intentions being evil. Something like this, because I do think, I do think like this is bigger than just a disagreement, which is interesting because I asked people on my bridging with leftists. Some people said, hold on, let me see if I can bring it up really fast. Let me grab it for you. Hold on. And we'll end there and then we'll take a break and then move on. Okay, so is it too late to build bridges with problematic leftists? When is it too late? Okay, look at this comment. Let's see. Let me see. This one right here, it says, to be honest, I don't think it's ever too late to build bridges with anybody. Anybody is interesting. Because automatically, I don't know if your brain does this, but mine does, where I'm like, do anybody? I just started imagining the worst people on the planet. Maybe that bridge will need a bunch of tolls and checkpoints. Maybe the person involved will have to build the bridge themselves, but it should be built nevertheless. I mean, I like the idea, right? And people said, I read that as trolls, but works both ways. They said, by the way, seeing a complete lack of accountability from Taylor so far, even denying it and calling it a smear campaign. Last I saw shows the construction isn't underway yet. Now, I don't know. I haven't seen an update from Taylor Lorenz on what she did to me soon, but I'll just say that I think when we talk about building bridges, I don't think all of us need to build bridges with everyone else. I do think that there are different bridges that end up going in the same direction. So example, if we're all anti-fascist, sure, we're all at the same protest. But once the protest is done, we go back to our own bridges, because I can't build a bridge with like Destiny or Vosh's community just because they all hate Trump. Like, I'm not building that bridge. Now, people would say to win politically, they would. Now, it's interesting, isn't it, that Hassan won't build the bridge with like a Vosh or a Destiny, but he'll build it with Charlemagne the God, who admitted to drugging women to have sex with them? Isn't that interesting? Like, was it so personal, or is it interesting? Even though Destiny has canvassed and stuff, and I'm not saying he should, by the way, I'm saying, why is the line in the sand that he won't, that's why I'm saying, so it's not always about winning, is it? Right? It's not always about whatever makes the movement win. Because if it was, you would suck it up and build bridges with these men. But we agree, those are bad men. Don't build bridges with them. But when I say maybe don't build a bridge with Hassan, people go, wait, why not Hassan? And again, it depends on how you see politics and what it is, right? So here's a TikTok.
It's just fucking team sports. That's not what politics is about. Politics is about winning power. Not just winning power for your team, not just winning power for Team Democrats. It's about winning power for your people, winning power for your neighbors, winning power for your friends and your family, winning power for the working class. That's what politics is about.
Now, this is true that when Malcolm X and he was trying to win power for the black community, right? Like, we talk about winning power because we're talking about actually having a say in how things go, not just having minorities and marginalized people begging the white man to remember them when they're running for campaigns, but to actually have political power, right? And I think there's something at play here in which Hassan is correct, but that's also why I think politics is where good people go to die, because we shouldn't have had to fight for political power. It should have been given in a society that is truly for the people. And the wake-up call is not that America is better than this, like the Democrats say in their little TikToks, like America used to be this place where it was so much better. Don't. And don't even make me start talking about Barack Obama mentioning, how he admires George Washington, but also acknowledges that he owned slaves. Like, that TikTok just came out, okay? I'm saying I want us to be able to say no. Yes, to acknowledge the nuance that all people exist and some bad people do, quote, good things. But really, what was so good about getting America started? What was so good about the U.S. getting established? What was so good about the genocide of the natives? What was so good about it? And now people will say, well, if women were in charge, you guys would never have this. We'd be still living in huts. What's wrong with a hut? Now you have to make the argument that there's something wrong with living in huts. Like, you know what I mean? You're implying that in order to have skyscrapers, we had to do a genocide. And I'm saying, who needs a skyscraper? And also, can we build skyscrapers without you committing a genocide? And if the answer is no, then maybe no skyscrapers. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, the question is, the justification of the horrible things that we do is look at all the good things that happened. And I'm saying, but at what cost? And that's the largest moral and ethical dilemma all of us must face. At what cost? Same with your parents. So if you have religious parents that disown their children for being gay or trans, and those children go on to become unhoused or die early, which statistically is a probability, and those parents chose Jesus over their kids, you will say, but at what cost did you choose your God over your children? At what cost was it worth choosing your God? And for some people, they'll say with their full chest, yes. And then that's the question of like, okay, and then we go back to we share a planet because we're animals evolved on a planet, and we share a planet together, and then what do we do? So again, when we have these conversations, I think there is so much good in protesting, and I believe in it, and I'll never be anti-protesting. I think there's so much good in asking ourselves, should we mask or not mask? I think there's so much good in asking ourselves, but how do I know it's good information? You test it. How do I know somebody is good? You see what they do. How do you know someone is good? You challenge them. Okay. Did you guys see the recent situation with Brianna? She was interviewing with this guy about the DSA, and he gets up mid conversation, hangs up on her because he didn't like the way she was questioning him. And I was like, why did you do this to her? Like, I didn't understand. Like, she was doing her normal thing, and he was like, I don't want to have this conversation. Did you see this here?
If we're gonna just like rehash the debate that you've been having with like the DSA left for 6 years, why? I've had a very busy day. Why'd you have me on? Like,
well, to what? Wait a minute, Dan.
This is, if you want to have me on, like I answered your question, but you're just like, now we've been like 20 minutes having the same back and forth. Like you said your piece, I've said my piece. Like it's not like I'm not like a TV talking head.
He wanted an NPR conversation where she basically, I watched it earlier this morning. He wanted an NPR conversation where it was like, you know, they have a conversation, but there's like, the challenge is very lukewarm. And he didn't like that she was like pushing back. She has this, she does have this platform that is very consistent in the way that she communicates. You know what I mean? So she did what she normally does. You know what's crazy though? She introduced him as somebody we all should know. And I was like, who is this man? Host of the Dig podcast, Daniel Denver. Who is this? To discuss the DSA sweep. Like, who is this? I don't even know who this is. So the irony is like, she was like, everybody should know who this is. Who is this man?
I just finished the 6th part of a 7-part, 16-hour series on the history of Indonesia, stretching from the dawn of Portuguese colonialism in the 16th century. I just finished my introduction on the mass anti-communist genocide of 1965, when between 500,000 and 3 million people were murdered by a US-backed dictator.
Okay. I don't even know this man. The first time I saw him, and I said, that's a bad man right there. That's a confusing man right there. That is I don't trust him man right there, because in the middle of a conversation in which he could have treated it in any other way, he had a bad moment. Now, I don't know if I can judge him for the rest of his other moments, but in this moment, my first time seeing him, not a good introduction. So just to wrap up to that original commenter, but how do you know? How do you know how to judge people? Well, given that you're a public figure, given that you're supposed to be somebody who I'm supposed to know, given that you're representing yourself and you just wrote a book and just did a documentary, given that you have all these things or just did a documentary, I think, oh, here's Indiana. You guys have been requesting. Here she is. Okay. Mouse. Hi, sweet girl. There you go. There she is. Okay. It's happening. Okay. It's happening. Now the impression is bad. And that's the point. So yeah, be careful when a person sees you and meets you, and do not be surprised when they have a bad impression of you, and then have the wisdom to give them another chance and just double check your first impression of somebody. And that's how we use data to come to good conclusions. Hey, I'm not going to judge this guy on his first, permanently judge him. Strike 1. Okay, this is strike 1. It's not looking good though, Dan, right? Strike 1. And then if he gets a strike 2 and a strike 3, that's it. But am I going to research him or look him up? I'm not interested in the way that he treated her. Now I'm not even interested. But if I see him again, I'll be like, oh, that's the guy. That's the guy that threw the tantrum. Right? And then I'll put it into perspective for the next time that I view him. Same with Hassan. When I first saw Hassan, I was like, I don't like him. Then the second time I saw Hassan, I said, I give him a chance. I started watching him. I started laughing. I was like, oh, I kind of like him. Then I saw clips of him. I was like, I don't like him again. Then I was like, okay, wait, maybe I'm being too harsh on Hassan. And then I was like, nope, don't like him. And that's the thing. I really try not to write, especially on the left, people off right away. It's different when you write off Nazis or the right or bigots, or that's easy. But on the left, it's more complicated, right? It's layered and it's nuanced and it's confusing because, yeah, aren't we all on the same side? So again, when I cast judgment here as a streamer, I'm also doing it to signal to my community safety. Okay? And I'm trying to say to you, we know what this is usually. I can see the situation for what it is. And I look at it and I go, this was inappropriate, regardless of his explanation. He treated her unfairly, very badly. And, whatever he was going through in that moment, he said, I'm very tired. I've been very busy. Why'd you have me on this show? I don't know what he's going through, but she was as confused as we are at his reaction. And so there must be judgment cast there. But I have the discernment and the wisdom to also understand that maybe he was just having a bad day. And maybe he'll apologize later, and maybe it'll be okay, and maybe he'll come on and apologize, and maybe he'll be embarrassed, or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doubles down, says bad things about her on Twitter, and then that's his strike 2. And if it goes too far, strike 3, and boom, we're out. Okay? And then that's how we use information. So again, I am not your Catholic mother. I am never going to assume you're a terrible, horrible person because I saw you for 5 seconds on a TikTok. Unless in that 5 seconds I saw you on a TikTok, you did a horrible thing. And then maybe I'll write you off, okay? All right, let's take a little bit of a break. And when I come back, another example of not completely writing somebody off, but definitely questioning now how safe of a person they are. And I hate to say this because I don't want to think this way, you know, but can a drag queen and a conservative find common ground? Patagonia and Brett Cooper have a collaboration together. And I just can't help but think, like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? So I'll give it a chance, but I'm not happy to see it. And I think this is wrong. This has the potential, unless Brett Cooper is about to turn around right now and sign up to be a Democrat, and not even a Democrat, that's not even the goal, but that's the bare minimum I would expect before this conversation happened. And I don't even like the Democrats like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why we're talking to Republicans like this. What are we trying to build bridges with Brett Cooper for? Okay? But we'll watch and then we'll cast judgment. Okay, but strike 1, talking to Brett Cooper and framing it as like, tee-hee, fun, tee-hee. Okay, strike 1. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll watch it. Why'd they do this to me? I know. Excuse me, what? I know. Why are they doing this to me? So annoying, bro. I'll be right back. Samantha Dragonati, links in the description. right, girls. Pausing music in 1, 2, 3. Big stop, big stop, big stop. Okay, now. Yeah, that song is Samantha Dragonati. She's linked in the description. Very talented artist. Oh no, we were getting to your favorite part. My bad. My bad. Okay. Hold on. Okay. So I think to this person in chat who's like, okay, so I'm gonna explain something, just autism to autism, okay? Because I feel like it's gotta be an autistic thing. Okay. So there's a commenter in chat, right? Who's generally writing a nice message, but the font and text you chose to choose is bot text. Right? You said July 3rd, 1,000 days of genocide. Okay, first, free Palestine. Easy. Okay? No genocide. Second, the problem is when you write it in that text and you do it in a particular way, it looks like a bot. I have some commenters who, when you guys comment, I skip your comments because it's like you're trying to write unique and stand out. So instead of it being about the cause you're concerned about, it's like you're saying, look at me. And I'm saying, who are you? So now I'm not thinking about Palestine. I'm thinking about how weird your comment is. This is just I'm just explaining to you the psychology, okay? So sometimes I'll see a commenter and it's like the people who capitalize every word in the message, like every letter or every first letter of the word. Like, I'm not going to read those comments. If you guys do not stick to generally like typical grammar or something, it's signaling like manifesto. Yeah. You said it's the font is to avoid YouTube censorship, but you don't have to avoid YouTube censorship. Like, not in my chat. Like, you could just say free Palestine. You could just say 1,000 days of G-side. You know what I mean? Like, if when your activism makes me think more about you than the thing you're arguing for, it's not good activism. That's my personal opinion. You know what I mean? That's how I look at it. If my activism makes me the main character, you know what I mean? So we're just letting you know why it feels weird here. But if you want to test it in my chat right now and see if it works, or if I just want to tell you know what I mean? But I'm just letting you know that it might look funny. You have a valid point I will consider. And I appreciate that. And obviously I love that you're bringing awareness to Palestine and the genocide. I think that's so important, right? Like, there's no doubt about it. That's the main part of this whole thing. We're just letting you know why it feels funny, especially because we get a lot of trolls. It's hard because, or we get a lot of people who, like, even with their best intentions, just make people uncomfortable because they are choosing, again, it's about signaling safety. They're like choosing to communicate in a way that makes people go like, are we on the same side? Like, do you mean it, So it's just probably a combination of things. Okay. Now that we've had this conversation, let's transition into this conversation with Patagonia. Patty, I'm just going to refer to her as Patty. I assume she also goes by she, her pronouns when she's in drag. I don't know about when she's not in drag. I actually don't know anything about Patagonia except that she's an environmentalist. She recently had a lawsuit with the copyright, and she seems overall like a cool person. So I was disappointed to see her choose to collaborate with Brett Cooper. And I know the justification of this is, it's going to be a challenge. And I just don't believe in it. I think regular people can do it. I think people in leadership positions can do it. This just feels like them using each other to build their audiences. And I just think it's wrong to collaborate with fascists in order to bring in views. But for some leftists, that feels like the goal. And I don't think so, because you're also building her platform up. Remember, she recently left Daily Wire. She's gone solo, and she needs every reason to build her audience too. So as much as you think you're poaching from her audience, she's also poaching from yours. Okay, let's watch it. Oh, sound is not on. Good job, Brittany. It says, can a drag queen and a conservative fight in common ground?
Color. But a right-wing YouTuber and a leftist drag queen.
Let's
get
get
Bad
Bunny. Yeah, okay, there we go. But
In
no,
a
they
skirt.
Guys.
Brett Cooper and Patagonia have a history that has divided them.
I feel like any drag queen that you see in the woods is going to be this guy. His name is Patagonia.
They're on two opposite sides of the political spectrum.
This Jesus person who was definitely queer, who was definitely a person of color.
But today they're sitting down to discuss one specific important.
Is this not the comedian, bro? Is this not the comedian who's always on my For You page? Like, if people on Twitter talked like they do in real life, like, I don't watch his stuff usually, but like his face is, right? That's the guy.
Topic, the environment.
Excellent. I give less of a
Tell me what you identify as beach or mountain.
What about swamp?
I just
Well, he's a bit of a lizard, but I do appreciate.
Oh, that's his company, babe.
All right,
I know.
okay, maybe something a little less controversial. Will they become more united by nature? That's the question we will seek and never answer on the Fire Pit.
If you feel that is.
So now that's going to be the new show, right? That's what this channel is. United by Nature. It's going to be one of those new fucking Build Bridges show where two people who are so different come together. Rainn Wilson and Januela Bear. What? Tribal leader and Mormon politician, rancher and bureaucrat. Oh, brother. Liberal elite and Florida man, conservative bow hunter and liberal comedian. Oh, man. Cringe. Okay.
Side. Get the.
By the way, this is the stuff I would have eaten up when I was younger, and even like 5 or 6 years ago would have been like, yes, this is beautiful. Oh my God. But like when it's celebrities building audiences, I think it's disgusting. When it's normies talking, fine. Because that's kind of like your neighbor meeting your neighbor. But when it is literally people I know who are in fact trying to get more famous, I feel like it's gross.
Outside. Every day people say to me, the earth is in danger, the environment is
This is Jake.
in peril. You may even think there's no hope left for humanity. It's easy to dwell in despair, but I decided to do something about it. I've assembled a team of experts who can help solve once and for all each and every one of these issues. And I think today we'll crack the formula here at the Fire Pit. Let me introduce you to Patagonia, salt of the earth, Midwestern individual, and Brett Cooper, Hollywood actress and woke social media influencer. Now, they are no doubt formidable enemies, but they're gonna have to put their differences aside today to fix the planet. Now, ladies, did I mischaracterize you in any way whatsoever? Would you like to introduce yourselves in your own way?
Sure.
Go for it.
I'm Patagonia, and I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy to be here with you.
Here goes nothing.
I know.
You know, I really do feel like nature is worth talking about, so I'm excited to talk about it, you know?
Me too.
Okay. I do think that we might find that we have more in common than we think.
I already think we do, and I'm very excited about it.
I'm putting it at 1.2.
So, Brett, are you a woke social media influencer?
No, unfortunately, I'm not. I would make a lot more money, I think, if I was.
Oh my. I'm already annoyed. Everybody knows you make more money being a conservative. Okay, everybody knows this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but no, I'm not. But I was a child actor, so you got part of that.
Okay, cool.
Right? But no,
Washington
I'm a
born,
YouTuber.
right?
Yes, Washington born, Tennessee raised, sort of Los Angeles raised as well. But
Okay.
yeah.
Excellent. Patagonia, tell us about yourself.
Oh my gosh, what to say? I am a drag queen.
Mhm.
I'm an environmentalist. It's two things I think are kind of new to different people. I think the environmental crowd is new to drag.
Mhm.
I think that the drag crowd is really new to the environment, and I love an unlikely duo. I think that's what we need. I think the world needs Brett Cooper and Patagonia, and I love getting to use who I am and what I'm good at to fight for what I believe in this world. It is amazing to stand up for what you believe in. I think a lot of people and a lot of forces in this world want us to not say what we believe.
The thing that I care about most, that I think about every single day before I sit down in front of a camera, is like, can I empower people to say what they believe, even if it's something that I disagree with, and give you courage to be bold in your convictions and live a life that is meaningful and creates value in whatever your value system is. We've all been divided by forces that we're not our creating.
Oh, pause. Already red flags. We are divided by forces of what? Like, already this conversation about, like, it's not us, it's them. We're too busy hating ourselves instead of the elites. Like, all philosophically unsound. So we do philosophy through pop culture here. And that's just all the rhetoric everybody uses to create enemies, which there's no such thing as an enemy. There's simply other people on the planet. So we have to come to this is religious speak. We're forces of evil. There's forces against our will. We didn't choose this, as if she didn't literally promote Trump, this administration, absolute forces of evil. As you know what I'm saying? Like, it's so interesting to watch Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Brett Cooper, and all these conservatives who are absolutely contributors to the fact that Trump got elected, turn around and say, ooh, you know, these forces, and we didn't get a say. Like, who are you talking about? The billionaires that Republican policy protect? Like, who are you talking? Like, what are you saying?
Sometimes I think we might amplify them and fall prey to them, but they make money on dividing us, and so I think
who makes money on dividing us? Who is the they?
We are crashing that system by sitting down today and doing this. So I'm excited.
You correct me if I'm wrong. You're both slightly different politically on the spectrum, right? Okay.
Sure.
Maybe, who knows?
We'll see.
We'll find out, right?
We'll see.
Well, what I want to know is, it more important to ask the question liberal versus conservative, or working class versus billionaire?
Want to say it on three?
1, 2, 3. Working class versus billionaire.
Okay, and why is that? Why is that? What do you have against billionaire?
How are you anti-billionaire and you're a conservative who votes for conservative policy? You know what I'm saying? So is she an anti-capitalist? So is she a socialist or a communist? Is she a Marxist?
They've given us so much.
I think it's less about like billionaires and more about an elite class that involves some billionaires.
Oh, so it isn't anti-billionaires. It's the elite class who is who? So there, see how this is the manipulation that I don't like about these kinds of conversations, where the person who's obviously bigoted and votes for bigoted policy gets to come on and pretend they're just like you. And yes, from neighbor to neighbor, we are just like each other. But when it comes to being a popular person who's making a lot of money off of sharing your ideas and spreading propaganda that is going to hurt people, so she gets to say, oh, I'm definitely against billionaires too. Well, okay, guys, not some billionaires, just like, okay, well, maybe like one billionaire, but not like all the billionaires. And it's like, okay, so you don't care about the working class. You know, it's a game. It's a game.
But does in large part involve our government and the ruling class, I would say, and the fact that they're so caught up in their agendas and their division and the way that they profit off of our outrage, working against our interests and leaving the working class completely feeling alienated and disappearing in a lot of ways. I mean, we're watching the middle class just completely dissipate. And so I think that's why. And I also think politics is so fluid in a lot of ways. Like, there are some things
like
I'm very conservative on this, and then there's other issues where I'm like, I really don't care, and my side really fucking pisses me off.
Brett Cooper says politics are fluid, and I say, hell yeah, queer agenda.
Who do that?
Yeah, oh God, billionaires.
You love them?
No.
Oh.
I think if I had a dream world, I would make far less billionaires in America to make room for more of us to be millionaires. Like, that's what I want.
Okay, so Patty is a champagne socialist, a socialist? Okay.
I want everyone to be successful. I just want for it to be an even ball game. And as long as money is in politics and billionaires can fund politics, AIPAC can fund politics, Israel can fund politics, I think that's where my billionaire alarm goes off. Do I think billionaires are weird? Yeah. Do I feel like most of them are like snake people? Yeah. But I do think that...
Snake people? Isn't that an anti-Semitism dog whistle as well? What is this? Like, who's the they? Who are the elites that Brett Cooper's afraid of? Even Chad said sounds anti-Semitic. I'm confused. And then here's I want all of us to be millionaires. Like, what? What is happening? Okay, I would just say, by the way that this conversation is going already, these are not leftists, and everyone here is a capitalist. That's what it sounds like so far. So they want to be ethical capitalists and or maybe socialists? Maybe?
There's just an intersection of politics and billionaire funding that is so wrong and produces such the wrong outcome for the majority of Americans. And all I want is the best possible future for the most number of people. That's my dream America.
I would love to know a little bit more about you, Brett, about your relationship to environmentalism and even the word climate change.
Yeah. So it came from my dad's love of the outdoors. My brothers are all Eagle Scouts. He was a scout leader, as was my mom. They raised my brothers, and then I was born on an island in the San Juans, which is just, I think, in my opinion, the most beautiful part of the country. As a kid, inspired by my mom, I always wanted to have a farm, and we bounced around and never really got to have one or do that. That was like always my mom's pipe dream when she was a kid. Actually, when I was 17 or 18, she moved to Idaho and started a homestead at 60 years old and learned it all herself and built it herself, and I got to be there alongside her. And then when I got married, my husband and I...
Is Patty an environmentalist? So are they vegan? Or plant-based? It always is interesting to me when environmentalists and leftists don't think about being plant-based more, because like if everything's political, then definitely what you're eating is political. So it's interesting. Like sometimes, guys, I genuinely, and I know, chat, we talked about this the other day, sometimes I feel so behind. Like sometimes I'm like, man, I really haven't deconstructed enough. Like I haven't really thought about it. And then I see the biggest people with the microphones and they're still engaging in so many things that I was like, did we leave that behind like 4 years ago? And I realized, no, it's just me. And that's why I say like, it's interesting engaging in a world that like the biggest activists in these bubbles are, that's why I say not that if, look, I don't want their position, but I'm saying if maybe I live my life with it in mind to an extent, but not really, like, what would be the ideal message to send the universe if I could send it? It would probably be to do as little harm as possible within reason and to value life and to find different ways not to unnecessarily cause as much harm as we casually do. But it never feels like that's the conversation. It always feels like the conversation is like, who do we hate? And I love that conversation too, but also like nobody. I'm just like tired and the world is exhausted and everyone's hungry. And I think we need to, all of us, especially conservatives, especially holistic people, especially the majority, we need to like sit down. They need to sit down and really look at themselves in the mirror and try to realize how much harm they're causing in the universe, right? So it's interesting to, maybe that's why they can do these collaborations and I couldn't feel good about it. Because I'm sitting here like, here I am saying I'm going to harm reduce and then I'm going to do a collaboration. Because I tried during lockdown especially, I was collabing with some of the worst people on the whole planet, thinking like we'll build a bridge. Maybe they seem like they're changing. Maybe they're becoming a better person. And it just was not a good idea. And I just don't know why like they would collab with Brett Cooper, because that's what it feels like. It feels like I already made that mistake in lockdown. I thought we all learned, that we weren't going to do this anymore. But then I realized it was my audience. Like my audience, like you guys you helped me pop a bubble in this regard and realize, along with my own journey, of course, it wasn't just you, but like you were one of the elements. And I wonder if these people's audiences aren't pushing back and saying, stop collabing with fascists, bro. Like, stop talking to them. Do you know what I'm saying? Oh my gosh, yes, girly. Thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships. Have I ever tried to say your name before? What is this username? So la la la. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. Enjoy those memberships. 5 memberships. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so, so much. Hey, that's a big deal, guys. 5 memberships. That's a pretty penny right there. That's a pretty penny. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Randomly, we were wanting to buy land and
Sola. Just say Sola. Okay, thank you, Sola.
Our dream has always been to raise our children in wide open spaces and give them fresh air and be able to get immune thanks to the dirt. And we found this amazing farm outside of Nashville and we bought it and we moved in. And so now we are raising cows and poultry. We have mules.
Okay, so now she's going to talk about raising animals, I think, to slaughter. Let's see if veganism comes up.
And pigs, and we're doing the whole thing. And I've become increasingly more grateful for this land and protecting it, especially through agriculture and trying to advocate for more regenerative and sustainable modes of agriculture. Because I think that that's a great way of protecting it.
Do you guys have this experience where this conversation is like 20 years old? Do you remember when Elon Musk was like renewable energy in his cars, or like which president did they stop? What's his name? The one who does Habitat for Humanity, and it was like 100 years old. Guys, help me out. Oh my gosh, why can't I remember our president's name? and they totally shut down his program for renewable energy, and it was a whole conspiracy. That was true, obviously. And it feels like these conversations are so old. I thought we were like all way on the other side. So when conservatives, Jimmy Carter, thank you chat, thank you smart chat. Yes, Jimmy Carter. When thank you Discord, thank you everybody. So when Brett Cooper comes out and is like, oh yeah, oh my gosh, like like saying stuff that we talked about already, like before she was even born, it's like, oh yeah, like of course there are people coming to this realization now. So that's something we always have to remember is everyone's coming to information at different times. But it's amazing that the institutions didn't, or nobody, like how long have we been warned about climate change? Yes, Al Gore is mentioned in chat right now. How long have we been warned by climate scientists? You know, everything that's happening right now, like why do you think we're concerned about the earth heating up? Like this heat wave, this conversation about air conditioning, like why do you think climate scientists are terrified about like people are not going to be able to live in places they've lived all this time? Like talk about migration, mass migration. Do you know what I mean? So like now here are these people coming in with this very superficial, you know, understanding of what's happening. And I'm sitting here like, anyways, I feel like conservatives, that's why there's a crunchy almond hippie pipeline to alt-right conservatism. It's like you go from thinking, let's be more sustainable and environmental friendly to not taking vaccines and drinking raw milk.
And actually using this amazing land that we live on.
How do you feel like you being a mother has changed your politics when it comes to nature, or just change your politics in general? Like, I'm
good
really
question.
curious to hear about how you as a mom,
that's a great
how
question.
that might have changed things for you, how it stayed the same, also how you're able to reach people that maybe I wouldn't be able to reach.
The thing that I keep thinking about and that is most prevalent is that it's not that I care less about what people think since becoming a mother, because I do. That's something that I work on every single day. I'm definitely a people pleaser. Like I have myself muted on all social media sites. Like I don't want to know what people are saying. I don't want to hear any discourse. But I am more comfortable pushing through that for my son's benefit. So I think I give less of an F now. Not sure if I can swear.
You can swear.
Excellent. I give less of a fuck. And that doesn't mean that I am any less impacted by criticism or people pushing back, but I'm emboldened in what I'm saying in a way that I don't think I was before. And I also think that it has forced me, and also just things over the past year, just watching politics and culture unfold and change. I think we're in a very, very dramatic and changing landscape in terms of politics, but also media and who is relevant and who the powerful voices are. And I think that there's a lot of people waking up to what we're talking about of this more elite ruling class and the normal Americans and who's actually benefiting here. And I think that transition for me has forced me to look at the world in a little less of a black and white way.
Patty, where did your love of nature develop? When did that happen?
I am from the Midwest, and I love being from the Midwest. And there is so much nature in the Midwest, and it gets so written off. People fly over it, they drive across it. But
I do love these earrings. This is such a cute earring look.
The Midwest is so beautiful. The amount of trees, forests, prairie, grassland prairie is this unbelievable ecosystem. And my love of nature came from me being a little queer kid, hanging out in my backyard. You know, performing musicals, jumping off of swing sets, choreographing numbers for audiences of no one. And for me as a queer kid, that was my first safe space. Nature was my first safe space. And you know, as I went to middle school, went to high school, encountered homophobia in the outdoors via sports, via my own internalized homophobia of thinking that I was going to hell or I was not natural. I was separate from nature. And so for me, nature has been a really healing process as my journey with Patty.
This is why I'm starting to think that maybe we could heal people's perception of others. I know it sounds silly because you would think they would value humans, but almost like learn to value other people by your connection to the land, by connection to nature, by your connection to non-human animals. Because maybe for some human brains, everyone's different. There's 8 billion of us. Maybe some people's brains do better at humanizing themselves and others by having connection to the land. You know what I'm saying? Which wouldn't be abnormal, right? I'm sure like this probably connects to Native Americans, indigenous people, and their practices. You guys would know better than me, but I think that speaks to me very much. I think that's why when I meditate in a place that allows me to hear birds, or in a place that allows me to feel wind, or in a place that allows me to, remember that I'm a part of the earth. And when I see a beautiful sunset, I try to remember that I'm like nature experiencing itself. Versus if I'm just thinking about like where my apartment is, or how much my rent costs, or what this is, or what bills I have, or whatever. It's like that's not that is nature experiencing itself, but it's not the grounded part of being. It's the anxiety part of being. So I really like this.
These unfolded because I've gotten to see that my queerness is nothing but natural. There's queerness in every ecosystem on every continent of planet Earth. Yeah, I feel really grateful for nature. I think that, you know, there are times where the times I felt the most disconnected from nature, I felt the most disconnected from myself. And I think that people in power strategically disconnect us from each other, from nature. And it's by design. If they can keep us disconnected, they can keep profits flowing. If we keep on staring at these screens and disagreeing, nature can suffer and they can abuse nature. And if we thought of nature like the relative that it is to us, we would never abuse it and treat it as we do.
Well, wouldn't we though? I like the sentiment, but I think it's untrue because if they mean by relative, literally our family and friends, like relative to us, then that's not true. Like the irony of self-harming is the irony of self-harming to feel like you're in control and then to turn around and look at the earth and say, like, be kind to it. Like you're not being, that's why we say you have to love yourself first so you can love others. Because like, look at you trying to love others while you're hurting yourself, you know? Chessa's question, Britt, is identifying as a queer person despite being a capitalist. Do you think you can be philosophically queer and capitalist? Okay, it depends on how you're using queer and anti-capitalist, because good question. A lot of people use queer as interchangeable to LGBTQIA. Some people use queer as a way to reclaim the slur. Some people use queer to signify like queer philosophy, which is different. I would say if I think about philosophical queerness, it would require a radical dismantling of the system at play that is in opposition to it, and that includes capitalism. So I would say when I say philosophically queer, I would say capitalism doesn't have a place in that. And I would also say that my journey into queerness has also been a spectrum. And I've always been queer individually, but when we say philosophically queer, it's not just like your identity, it's an embodiment of the framework, and the framework is in opposition to a system of oppression. And so capitalism being a system of oppression is very anti-queer. And also, right? So it's layered. What I assume Patty is saying is that they are queer. They're individually queer. I don't think they're referencing a larger framework of queerness, but that's what I think on that.
But when we think of nature as a resource and something to extract from, take from, abuse, and we separate ourselves from that, I think it's a lot easier to abuse something. So,
well,
Chet,
you both seem identical to me.
Hold on. Chet says, Patty just feels fake to me. If you mean in this context, in this conversation, the reason I can't do conversations like this is that it does literally require you to be fake. That is a requirement of the setup that you ignore that the woman sitting across from you supported a rapist, fascist dictator who advocated to take away your civil rights. It literally does require a level of performance. That's why I'm not very good at it. You know what I mean? Because I'm sitting here like why are we? It's like the elephant in the room, and this is politics, and that's why I don't like politics, because it's like, why are we ignoring like this thing? It's a game I don't want to play, but when you're good at it, you know, society rewards you. So
both theater kids, you both love nature. All right.
So hot.
This segment is called word hunting. Okay, I'm going to shoot a word or a phrase at each of you.
Okay.
And you're going to share the first thing that comes to mind. Climate change.
Needs new branding.
I was gonna say political.
Vegans.
Angry.
Love their anger.
I'm actually vegan. Do I look like an angry person to you?
No.
Oh my God, shout out.
The ones who scream at me though are.
Okay. I'm not going to scream at you about
Thank
it.
you.
Capitalism?
Unnatural. Cancer.
I'm gonna give more of a sentence.
Please.
Important but misused.
Oh, okay, Patty. Okay, Patty. So Patty's a socialist, probably. Because look, we shouldn't all have to be millionaires because our quality of life shouldn't require money in that way. But there is a socialist bubble, and I'm not the most educated on this, that is like everyone should be rich and wealthy. And isn't that what they call champagne socialism? Am I stupid? Like, isn't that what that is, literally? Like, everyone should be, you know, that's why, anyways, I don't know. But, okay, you probably know more than me. But I would say I would rather live in a world where we don't have to be millionaires, where we don't actually have to make X amount of monies like that. You know, I would just like to live in a world where we labored for our community and built a nice world and lived a good life, and then we died. So I don't know.
Or important but not even relevant right now because we don't even live in a capitalist society. We're not seeing true free markets.
Obviously, this is exactly how capitalism was meant to work, but let's see what Patty says.
Explain more.
Yeah.
Well, when you are living in a political system that is completely bought and paid for by corporations, when the government is meddling in markets, whether that's on behalf of the left or the right, that's not free markets. And so I think when people advocate on behalf of modern day capitalism, it just doesn't even feel.
That is literally the definition of capitalism. What? I gotta hear that again. Hold on. What?
On behalf, completely bought and paid for by corporations when the government.
That is literally what capitalism is. That is literally what capitalism is. Like, just Google capitalism and the first definition that comes up, at least every time I do it, girl, it's always about the corporations. Like, that's why people don't like it, because it puts them at the most important hierarchy because they create jobs and shit. Like, what is she saying? Let's see what Patty says.
Government is meddling in markets, whether that's on behalf of the left or the right, that's not free markets. And so I think when people advocate on behalf of modern day capitalism, it just doesn't even feel relevant.
I'm so fascinated when people like
Okay, wait, pause. Chat says Patty is not a socialist. They own multiple companies, are in the middle of a trademark lawsuit with Patagonia. This is always the complicated part. This is sort of like the criticism I had of Chelsea Fagan. And people were like, Chelsea's not a landlord and doesn't own the means of production, but Chelsea owns a company and employs like 7 people and just bought a second house that they're going to write off as a nonprofit. So it is kind of interesting, like when we have these conversations about like, are you anti-capitalist or not? I'm not saying you can't own a business necessarily, but then what is the means of making the business, and what's the point of having a business and not a co-op, and what's the point of having, so it's always a question about what that means. But again, it's this balance of like, which framework of socialism or anti-capitalism are you engaging with? Because yeah, it is interesting.
The boot that's on their neck, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Wait, rewind that.
So fascinated when people like lick the boot that's on their neck, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Like capitalism is crazy, but thank God we have Oreos.
Oreos?
What?
Thank God we have Oreos.
Because they're vegan?
Oh, sweet. Those are
giving us
Thank God we
Oreos.
have Amazon.
Thank God we have Amazon now.
What?
We have Oreos.
Oh, sweet. Those
Exactly.
are
Giving us
Thank God we
Oreos.
have Amazon.
Amazon has one of the worst environmental Do you know what helped me go plant-based? An Amazon documentary of the pollution Amazon was causing inspired me to go plant-based. It was like multiple documentaries, but I specifically saw one about literally the amount of like damage being done by fast fashion and overconsumption. And I was like, oh no, I gotta go plant-based. Like I gotta do something. I gotta stop overbuying. We stopped buying on Amazon. Chad said it's sarcasm, I believe. No way. Hold on. Is it sarcasm? Is she making a joke? Let's go back. Hold on. Let's see.
Thank God we have Amazon now. That is a hot take, girl.
Listen,
Okay.
I love Amazon Prime.
Oh, see, no, it wasn't sarcasm. Okay, it was not sarcasm. So, okay, like that's what I'm saying. Like to be clear, we stopped our family. Like unless one time twice, there was a medical device we needed that was unavailable anywhere else. So we did get it. And there was a cost we couldn't afford. And so we got it. So twice in the last year and a half have we bought from Amazon when we used to buy at any moment we wanted. I used to have Amazon packages at my porch all the time. So I will admit we didn't completely literally stop, but I mean, basically, unless it's an absolute emergency and I can't find any other way to get something, we're doing anything but Amazon. So like, oh my gosh, interesting.
Okay, that's literally crazy.
Fuck the billionaires except you, Jeff Bezos.
Literally.
Well, he's a bit of a lizard, but I do appreciate.
Oh, that's his company, babe.
All right,
Oh,
well, okay, maybe something a little less controversial
Yeah.
or more, I don't know. This segment
the game.
is called Guess the Guess. I am going to read real quotes that each of you have said.
Oh, no.
Okay, these are actual things you've said.
Okay.
I'm going to say it in a
Hilarious.
neutral tone to try not to give anything away.
Wow.
And
That's
you
homophobic
have
right
to
there.
guess. Okay, sorry. Okay, don't clip that. You're you're going to have to figure out who said it. You can work together. But are you ready?
I love this because this makes me feel like we're going to be saying things that are more similar.
Well,
than,
who knows?
I know. Here we go.
Who knows?
If it's stuff.
All right, here we go. Just caring about the outdoors is not enough. We must be gay. We must be gay and environmentally conscious.
Obviously, she said it.
Well, I think that must have been me. I would just no.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
This is Brett's coming out.
That is a quote. That is a quote from Brett Cooper. I mixed it up a little bit. I was a little tricky.
I know that was me. Just caring about the outdoors is not enough. We also must be gay. We must be gay and environmentally conscious.
You were being sarcastic.
That's a bit funny. Okay.
Oh my God, wait, I love this. Wait, is this when you make your video about me?
Maybe.
It is, yes.
I love it. We must be gay.
Okay.
We must be gay. That's so funny because I heard that and I was like, I feel like I might have said that at one point.
Okay, I'm done.
Oh my God. Nature is healing.
It
Nature
is.
is healing.
It is.
Okay. All right. All right, ready?
Incredible.
Language informs our understanding of ourselves.
If I said that, that's so gay.
I was going to sort of say the same thing about myself. Like, I don't. What would that even?
Yeah, what would that apply to? I'm excited to hear.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Patagonia.
Oh.
Look at you, so profound.
Eloquent. Yeah.
Esoteric.
But what does it even mean?
Next one.
We'll go back and look.
I wake up every morning, literally with a smile on my face, grateful for another day I never thought I'd see.
Ooh.
I mean, probably me.
It could be me.
That was actually former Vice President Dick Cheney, R.I.P. sir.
Ew.
Wait, do you know that I'm related to Dick Cheney?
Please pop off, sis. Tell us all about it.
He's a distant cousin of mine.
Wow, and how does that make you feel?
Interesting. Wait. Wait, no, it's not Dick Cheney. Holy crap. I literally just
Okay,
confused them. Never
roll it
mind.
back.
Roll it back.
Literally, hard
never
cut.
mind.
Breaking news, Brett Cooper.
Is related to.
Related
No,
to
I
Dick
got
Cheney.
the wrong politician.
Okay,
It's fine.
Yeah.
I always
Why am
confuse,
I- okay.
Brett, don't worry. I always confuse my dicks, okay?
Okay.
good.
All right. Well,
Always do.
it's okay. We'll move on.
There is one.
Get outside and connect to nature, because if you can't get connected to it, how are you going to advocate for it?
You know what this is? This is okay. Here, let's be serious. This is an unserious conversation about the seriousness of our existence. And ultimately, the only people benefiting are these 3 social media creators who are more than popular, who make more than enough money, who are still coming together to have fun conversations with bigoted people in the name of bridging a gap. You know what I mean? Like, this is why I don't do stuff like this. Because, yeah, it is fun. It's funny. You're joking. But then you think about what you're doing and it's like so dark, bro. Like, you do feel like you have, you know, it's easy to get along with people when everyone's being nice. It's easy to get along with people. That's why I say, like, some of the nicest people you know will be the most bigoted people you've ever met, because in the right social circumstance, you're going to have the time of your life. And then when you're all sober and you wake up and you go to work the next day, you realize, like, holy shit, they're like, they want me dead, bro. You know? So, you know, this conversation is annoying to me in that regard. I even catch myself like enjoying it and laughing. And then I go, oh, it's like that song, you know, the I grieve different. Is that Kendrick? So sorry if that's not Kendrick. I don't listen to Kendrick, but I think that's Kendrick, right? So like, it's a switch. It's like a, oh my God. You know, it's like a real, it's like a darkness. I don't know that song in context. I just know I hope I didn't say anything, you know. There you go.
That's definitely me.
That is absolutely Patagonia.
Because, and let me say this. Here's my theory. We fight for what we love, right? I'm so grateful to be from a place like Nebraska, where I couldn't just throw my neighbor away.
Yeah.
I had to
Nebraska. Shout out to Nebraska, you know?
resolve conflicts. I had to learn what another side or another person might think and still go to school with them, be neighbors with them. And I think it's the same for nature too. I mean, I think we're asking for a lot of people to fight for nature, to even fight for politics, and they're completely disconnected from these systems by design. So I think if we get outside, no matter how that looks, and connect to nature, fall in love with it, fall in love with ourselves a little bit more, fall in love, shocker, with each other a little bit more, we're gonna fight more for it.
Oh, for sure.
While I was a student at UCLA, I had 2 communist manifestos chucked at my head, literally. Brett, did that happen?
Yes, actually. That was kind of the peak of, in the primaries, pre-2020 election, that it just got more heated politically on campus.
Wait, the Communist Manifesto, like the little booklet? It's not that, you know, it's like 60 pages.
And within my friend group. And
just kidding, don't throw things at people.
We were having, you know, conversations where it was like, oh, Brett's family's from the South, he definitely owned slaves. And I would just be sitting there like, okay, we don't even know anything about my family, but it was like a political jab for no reason. And then, you know, they would know, they started to kind of get a little bit of an inkling about my political beliefs, and another girl who was not a conservative by any means, but was not, like, she was voting for Biden, not Bernie. So there was like that distinction. And it became obvious that they were very comfortable being brazen in their values and that we were very willing to shut down to please them. So then at one party, everybody was really drunk. I got there later, and I think they had been talking about me, and a friend was super drunk and got up on a table and said, "Hey, Brett, read this," and just like chucked it in my head. And I was just like, okay. But I do think it was also...
Okay, so they didn't like throw a drunk friend of yours threw a book at you, towards you? Man, they love to make themselves out to be a victim. What was that story? What?
I was awake and say, "Hey, Brett, read this." And just, I got there later, and I think they had been talking about me, and a friend was super drunk.
And a friend was super drunk.
Got up on a table and said,
and got up on a table.
"Hey, Brett, read this." And just like...
And said, "Hey, Brett, read this," and threw it. So a drunk person threw a book at you. Who's your friend? Your friend threw a book at you. What is this story?
Chucked it in my head. And I was just like, okay. But I do think it was also... it was a wake-up call for me, because I was like, if it's going to get to a point where the people that I am bending over backwards to try to like love...
Are you bending over backwards? Do you hear the way the story goes? I'm bending over backwards to tolerate your disgusting homosexual behavior, which I am horrified by, and literally tell my child they're going to hell for. And oh my God, like, come on, girlie, what are we talking about? Like, look, it's your friend. You can talk to your friend about their drunken behavior, but what does that have to do with the whole movement of people? What does that have to do with the left? You know what I mean? If they're your friend, you know what I'm saying? Like, are they even that left? Like, what are we talking about? What is the social context? You see how conservatives do this thing is like, we have to bend over backwards over what you want. Do you? Did you? When?
Be so considerate of and hear you out and be part of your conversations.
Okay, I'm going to hear you out, but I'm still not going to budge on giving you basic rights. And I'm going to work to support a rapist president and a fascist government in order to continue to take away your rights. Tiniest violin ever.
If you're going to go so far as to try to like humiliate me or even hurt me, then it's like, why am I hiding?
I hate that a communist manifesto got chucked at your head.
Thankfully, it's really thin.
Yeah, it's not very big.
It's not very
Well,
okay, wow. So we all agree it's not a very big book.
I love that the lesson you took from it was to fight for what you believe in.
Yeah.
Because while I have not had a communist manifesto chucked at my face, I was raised in white Christian nationalist churches who taught me to hate myself. And while it wasn't a literal book being thrown at me, I feel like I was having a Bible chucked at me. I really learned that I had to literally come out as gay and be who I was and advocate for myself. And if anything, walk in the footsteps that Jesus is actually walking in. Make the
Jesus was a con man. Somebody in my chat was like, is this even Jesus's teachings? Who cares? He was a con man at best. His buddies, 15 to 25-year-old men, who cares? Like, I'm so sick of people saying, but would Jesus really do this? Who cares? Jesus, who cares what Jesus would have done? He was some dude 2,000 years ago. I don't care. Like, I'm so sick of people acting like leftists in particular, liberals in particular, evoking like the goodness of Jesus. Like, girl.
Unity that Jesus actually would have. Love in the way that Jesus actually would have. And fight for what I believe in, because I want everyone to advocate for what they believe in. I want us to be decent.
Yeah.
I want us to be respectful. But I want us to advocate for what we believe in. I do believe that actually, if everything in nature was the same, we wouldn't have the diversity of nature.
No.
Ecosystems would die.
Yeah.
And we see that when we have...
I hate this conversation. Why is Patagonia catering to fascism so fucking hard in this video? That's what I'm saying. Patty's a lib, bro. I didn't know Patty was a lib. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, leftists are not getting popular. Like, real leftists are not popular. Patty is popular because she's a lib, bro. She's digestible. She's doing this. Like, come on. What is this convo? With peace and love, you know, who is this? This is like the necessary podcast conversation and Hassan talking to them. Lib action, bro. And when I say lib, I just want to be clear, guys. I know we throw away this insult. People are like, Brittany, you're such a lib. To me, a liberal is a person who talks in a way that isn't as seriously locked into how serious, how serious of a moment we're in and we will always be in. Like, to me, when I think of a leftist, I think of somebody who's like, hey, there's serious problems we got to solve. This isn't a joke. This isn't a performance. This isn't a late night show where you have amazing ratings because two sides came together. People are dying. Like, people are unnecessarily dying. And you're sitting here, sitting at the same table as me, acting like, oh, we should all have an opinion. Like, yeah, we should all have an opinion. about how to not kill people, about how to feed people, how to house people. So it's really disappointing, I think, to see these conversations about building bridges and closing gaps and educating people, because it just feels like their opportunity to build an audience and get more popular and rich. Both of these people are more than well off. They're more than successful. They're more than popular. You know what I mean? They don't need to do this. And so it just feels like very unnecessary. Again, it goes into that idea of like when the marginalized minority or majority become popular and like they love a story of I came from nothing and I made something of myself. Yeah, but when you got there, what did you do with your success? You know what I mean? I'm glad, you know, you worked really hard for it, but it's always a question of like, what did you do with that success?
Ecosystems that are all one type of pine tree, and a forest fire comes across and everything's overgrown. A forest fire happens and destroys everything. And I think one of the biggest lessons that nature has taught me is that we don't need to burn it all down. We need to prescribe burn what isn't working to make room for new growth. And I think that is done in beautiful, contained ways. Disagreement in beautiful and contained ways. Fire, but for a means to an end. And that reframe of ecosystems, I think, could completely change American politics. It could change our relationships. Because
I will say, because Chet said, I'm sorry, or I'm disappointed Patty's a lib, her activism is likely performative. It might not even be performative. It might just hit its ceiling where it's at. And that's why I question the collaborations people do who say they're a leftist, because like, why are you talking to this person? You know, why are you building a bridge with this person? You know? And so maybe Patty's values are real and authentic. I'd like to think so. I think Brett's are probably real and authentic. I just think they're ill-informed. I think Patty's hit a ceiling where she wants everyone to be millionaires, right? She just said that. So she is like, that's why I say with Chelsea Fagan, like if you're living up to the standard, or Hassan Piker, you're living up to the standard, that's fine. But I just like, I don't get it. And I couldn't imagine, and look, I couldn't imagine. Yeah, I just couldn't imagine at this state of my life being in an interview and saying, I think we should all be millionaires. What? No. What? No, we should all live good, healthy, and productive lives with our family and friends and be making art and feeding people and planting trees, I guess, and like doing all these great things. But like, we shouldn't be, what does being a millionaire have to do with anything about the quality of your life? Unless you live in a framework of like hierarchy and money and, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense. But it's a good education for all of us to be aware of, like, when you see content creators, when you see activists, when you see people, and this is how they're building the bridge by normalizing Brett Cooper's views. So right now, Patty's kind of like catering to Brett Cooper's views. Like, yeah, we should all have a say. We should all have you know, what do you think? And like, maybe if she's nice enough, Brett Cooper will change her ideas, but like, she's not going to. Will Brett Cooper admit with her whole chest that she voted for a rapist? Because until I hear a MAGA person say this, I don't want to hear nothing. Until a MAGA person says, like, yes, I voted for a fascist. Yes, I voted for a rapist. I don't know how I did that, or this is how I did it. I don't even want to have the conversation with you. Because it's like, you need to know what you did in order for all of us to like walk back in, right? It's so weird. I don't know.
Have more in common than we have apart.
What to each of you, do you think is the best way right now for people to advocate for the environment?
Well, I'll just say this, because chat's saying maybe Patty's like Hank Green. Maybe Patty's like Hank Green, but I will say this about the Green brothers. As far as I know, and I could be wrong, as far as I understand it, all of the revenue they make from all of their channels goes to charity, and the only revenue they take home is what they make on their books. I could be wrong. And John's a very successful author. Hank's a very successful author. So they are millionaires. They are wealthy. Bernie Sanders is a millionaire. I mean, being a millionaire by retirement is necessary for a good retirement under capitalism. So it's not that you're a millionaire that makes you like evil to me if you do it in an ethical way, because you can become an ethical millionaire by saving as a teacher. You can. Okay. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this idea that we should aspire to be wealthy, or we should aspire to be rich. I'm not talking about having $1 million in savings. That's very attainable for even teachers, okay? I'm talking about, like, when we have these conversations, I'm talking about, like, the decisions you make when you're given an excess. What do you do with your excess? And that's what's interesting to me. And so, yeah, I don't know what Patty exactly means when she says everyone should be a millionaire, but it definitely makes me raise an eyebrow.
Actually, I want to say I love what you said at the beginning, and I had not put it into words this way, but it's actually what I've been feeling as we've been spending time together, is that you play a really important role of bringing your community into environmentalism. And I think in a similar way, that's what Nature is Nonpartisan, what Benji Backer has been doing with conservatism, because for so long, I've been uncomfortable with the term environmentalist because it felt so skewed in politics, and not even politics, but specific policy.
Everything is political.
That I might not have agreed with.
Brett, it has, babe. Like, I
Yes.
will gladly admit that.
Yes,
Like,
and so that was a term that I was not comfortable with, but just as being somebody who cares about the environment and wanting to advocate for it and bringing people from your own side into this world and caring about it as a shared thing, I think is so important. And so
Yeah.
you play that very important role. And so while it might be something that's definitely out of my world, you're doing something for community, like you said, you're, the drag community or whatever it might be, you're showing them something new and offering them something. And if we are actually doing this for the benefit of this world and Earth and our amazing country, then that's a net positive.
But like, what does social media have to do with this? How can we use our platforms to advocate for these things in a positive way?
social media, where to fucking begin? I mean, it has given me a community that I would not be the same without. It has given me some of the most like toxic relationship feelings of my life. It has really shown me that social media is a tool, and you can use a tool to build or to destroy. And I want more people to get to, while we still have the chance, like maybe one more year before social media totally goes to shit, use it as a way to create change and to build things, to build community, to build solidarity. So many people want to talk shit and start shit online, and so few people want to do something about it. So every time I see someone out there in the arena doing something, putting their voice out there on social media, it
But see, I hate this call out because now by action, Patty's saying that they're doing this right now, that her collabing with Brett Cooper is the action she wants to see from people. And I'm saying, I don't want to see this from people. I don't want to see you doing collaborations with Brett Cooper. I want to see you in your communities, or I want to see you in your families. I want to see you healing your family trauma. Look, not all of us are in a position to go out and deal with co-ops or groups or build co-ops, or deal with foundations. Like some of us are healing our family who trauma. Some of us are taking care of our parents who have dementia. Like some of us are raising children. So I'm not expecting all of us to go out and touch grass in the same way. But if we're going to go out and do a collaboration, use our platform, why are you using your platform to talk to Brett Cooper? I don't get that.
matters.
Being on social media has made me bolder. It has made me more articulate. It has made me better at analyzing stories and trying to seek truth and trying to stay consistent and in line with my values amidst so much noise. And it's hard because with what I do, where I do a show almost every day and have for however many years now, sometimes I was doing shows 2 times a day, and it was all based on news and social media. And so that meant that my life was completely consumed by following news and following stories. And it's a very complicated relationship to have. And there have been times when I feel like I've been so wound up, and that impacts my personal life. And so it's trying to find that boundary there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard when it's connected to your work, but I do think it's a tool.
It's hard when it's your work. You really can't get away from it. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. We're gonna.
But if you
go
feel
ahead.
dead inside, get the fuck outside.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's as
Can
simple
we
as,
agree on that?
yes. Yeah, it is as
Okay, say it
simple
with me,
as
Brett. If you feel dead inside. No.
Wait,
We're
no,
gonna
I
redo it. We'll roll back. If
If
you
you
feel
feel
if
Okay.
you're dead, don't.
Don't do it.
Okay.
Outside.
Outside.
In the ground.
If you feel
ready? Here
dead
we go.
inside- yeah.
If you feel dead
Feel
inside, get the
inside.
fuck outside. Okay, here we go.
Okay. If you feel,
One more time.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. If
If
you
you
feel
feel
dead
dead
inside, get the fuck outside.
outside.
Here we go.
And we can all agree on that.
We can.
We absolutely can.
Delete the apps.
Sure.
Touch
Delete
grass. My
it.
favorite line. Touch grass.
Touch grass.
You know what?
Literally
Touching
log
grass.
off.
Yeah, but it's touching grass, going to the Walmart and harassing the gay couple. You know what I'm saying? When you go outside, are you going to fly a Confederate flag? Maybe stay inside. You know what I mean? But sure, when you're feeling that way, step outside, ground yourself, you know?
This is not enough. We need to literally end billionaires, okay? Touch grass and billionaires.
I heard that you both brought something for each other and for me, right?
No.
Okay. Well, I'll go get it.
Okay.
I'll be
Thank you
back.
so much.
Yes,
Thank
of
you.
course.
Hey, girl.
I'm excited.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What is one way that you feel the most misunderstood?
Oh. You know, I think this is just because of late in conversations online, but I think there's a lot of people who these days have like labeled me as a grifter, or like I'm in something for the wrong reasons. And that's obviously painful to feel misunderstood when you're trying to be consistent with your values, and sometimes those values take you away from people that you have been connected to or loved or supported, and that the automatic response is like, oh, she was never on our team to begin with.
Sounds like a toxic relationship to me.
It's toxic. What about you?
Well, I will say that I really appreciate you bringing that up, because I think that there's a lot of people right now in politically toxic relationships where people feel abused or people feel used. And I wish that like love was embraced more. I think love is very misunderstood. I think that love can look tough. I think that love can look brave.
Yeah.
We could all be asking ourselves right now, what does love demand of us? What does love demand of us to build the nation that we need to build?
Yeah.
What does love demand of us to actually build a democracy that's by the people, for the people? For me, it looks like, honestly, leading my life a lot like this Jesus person who was definitely queer, who was definitely a person of color, and who definitely lived their life as a religious person, not to a religion's end or not to people in power's end, but to a collective power's end, to a health for the whole rather than the individual. When I look at nature, just as I do Jesus, which by the way, I think this is.
Jesus told his apostles to leave their families and follow him. He told people to leave their jobs and follow him. He told Peter to abandon his family to follow him. Jesus was a con man. This is, someone in chat said it, this feels so millennial. This is, I would have eaten this interview up 10 years ago, 8 years ago. I would have been like, I would have been like, yes, queen. Oh my God, this is so good. Speak, reverse psychology, talk about Jesus and what a real Christian Jesus would have been and how he would have been cool with gay people and prostitutes. Jesus hates you. Jesus does not love you. Jesus is a con man. Okay? Jesus did not give a fuck about gay people, trans people, or prostitutes. Okay? Jesus told Mary Magdalene, leave your pimp because I'm going to be your new one. Okay? Stop evoking the name of Jesus as a person on the left. Okay? Chet says, I saw Brett Hartley say that Jesus is praised for things that mothers do. Exactly. Okay? But in like a good, in a good way. Like he's like, I've seen that video. I know what you're talking about. Shout out to Brett Hartley. Okay? This conversation is so silly. This is so like, people are dying, Kim. That's what this feels like. People are dying, Kim.
Is my cathedral now. This is the cathedral that I worship. But when I look at each individual thing, this tree without this whole grove of trees would have fallen down years ago from a windstorm. We are stronger together. The people united will never be defeated. And I think it's really brave to be fighting for that. And I'm really excited to see you fight for that more.
Thank you.
I have something here. You're both gonna have to explain what I'm holding.
Ugh, I've got trolls in the chat right now, but I'm blocking them pretty quickly. They're like, oh, so I blocked them. They came back with a new name. I'm not allowed the free speech. Call the thing. Point out to shameless attention whore. Guess I'm not better. I better not mention Britney's huge. Can do an 8-ball out of one time with that nose. Damn, bro. Clever. I've never heard someone call my nose an 8-ball. That might be the most clever nose insult I've ever gotten. Blocked. Blocked. People are so... It's like, I assume they're like 12,
Oh, shit.
Okay.
Okay.
Patty?
Go ahead.
I'll go first. I made you your banana thing. Your banana latte thing.
You are so sweet. You're kidding.
Yes, the syrup is made of banana.
What's an 8-ball? Magic 8-ball. You like predict the future? Right? Isn't that what an 8-ball is? Oh, like sniffing drugs? Oh, I was taking it innocently. I thought he was talking about an 8-ball. Wait, it's about drugs? Oh, we can all do drugs. I thought he was talking about a magic 8-ball. Did you guys have that as a toy as a kid? A magic 8-ball? No? You know what? If they meant drugs, I'm more than happy to do those.
Bananas, and if you drink this, you will turn at least 3% gay, Brett Cooper, okay?
Cheers.
So cheers.
I love
Here
it.
we are. And I will even turn 3% straight.
Whoa.
Amazing.
Straight has never tasted so good.
And
Thank you. This is amazing.
That's a lovely gift. And I have something else here. Brett, would you like to explain?
This is cultured salted butter from our Jersey cows, my mom's Jersey cows.
Wow, I like how much all of you know it's about drugs, and I didn't. And I think I've done more drugs than a lot of the people here. That's crazy.
That I made about 48 hours ago.
What?
Yeah. So this was cultured from my mom's own clabber that she makes.
Clabber.
Clabber. So
Tell
that
me
is how
more.
you make, so it's like, when milk clabbers, it goes bad.
Yes.
And in normal times, people would throw that away, gross, disgusting. When you are working with dairy products and you're
Yes.
making yogurt or cheese or butter, that clabber.
Chat's at the two bubbles in Brit's chat right now. Literally the most innocent, autistic, like, oh, it's a toy. And the druggies in my audience, you drug addicts, love that though, honestly. I really do love that. I was just telling my partner, like, man, I haven't been high in years because I moved to Croatia where there's no weed. And let me just tell you, I kind of miss weed. Like, I am so tempted to go smoke in a different country where it's legal. Because honestly, girl, I kind of miss the high. But yeah, I'm just saying, vacation to the Netherlands, maybe.
Is what allows you to take milk or cream and transform it into products.
So like what a metaphor. It's like we might throw it out, but instead we are upcycling.
Yes.
We are turning it into a new.
Yes.
And you're giving me butter.
Yes, I am. And I have
nature's
a
healing.
insulated lunchbox for you to fly home with it so that it doesn't melt.
Oh, wow.
Babe. And on that note, we're moving on. The segment is called America the Beautiful. You have 240 seconds to find a solution to show off America's beauty.
Okay.
I will explain no more. Okay, have fun.
All right, first thing that comes to mind is how do we eliminate the barriers so that people can experience it?
I think about the beauty and power of like my local neighborhood park and like how
Well, probably not voting for an administration that got rid of park funding.
I think national parks get this huge spotlight, but the nature that's changed my life time and time again has been the park that's right by my house.
Yeah.
The park I take my nieces and nephews to.
I was immediately like transported back to my childhood park. I think of like the little amphitheaters and stages and pavilions in parks, and that would be like up there tap dancing. What if, okay, you know how there's those Super Bowl commercials where it's like,
Let's
they have
get Bad Bunny.
Yeah, okay, there we go. But
In
now
a
they
skirt.
Out in a
Sing
park.
Fuck Ice.
There we go.
In a park. Oh my God.
Wow, we're really making
You
this
down?
political.
You down?
Oh, okay.
Oh, we're really making this political. That's the problem with conservatives. Everything is political to them, but they hate it when you make everything political. I'm telling you right now, I grew up with conservatives my whole life. They always blame the left about making everything political, but that's literally everything that they do. She's basically, how do I say this nicely? She's basically playing a game, okay? She's playing the game where she pretends that in an isolated bubble, there is no politics and we can just create these fun solutions about people getting along. And then when she goes back to her life, she's going to go back to the bubble where everything is political and she's voting against your basic rights. And that's the part that I'm talking about that I think is so important. I don't like people collaborating with conservatives and pretending like that's not happened. But I don't like people collaborating with conservatives just to build their audience either, because like, what are we doing here? I know debate is interesting. I love watching people talk about different ideas, but I don't think you need to talk to conservatives. Liberals and leftists disagree plenty. We could have plenty of really good debates between libs and leftists. We don't need to talk to conservatives. And I'm not talking about your neighbors who need housing. I'm not talking about your communities. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about politically for a job. Remember, they're making money. Remember that Hassan is making money, that these people, if Hassan is, I don't know, okay, but I'm assuming that his stream is turned on when he's doing protests, so he's making money, right? So when there's these big scuffles like between him and the Black Panther, and they're going at it, Hassan's team is the one who's streaming, or people are streaming around them. There's money involved. And that's why, like, it's ironic for them to say, like, it's not about money, it's about the community. Okay, why are the phones on? Why are the cameras on in this particular way? I'm not saying that creators shouldn't be streaming and making money, because not everyone's making $2 million a year. I'm saying it's interesting that it's hard to decipher like what is work and what isn't work. So if we're working, be transparent with the fact that we're working and we're networking. So right now, what I'm getting from this is Patagonia is willing to network with conservatives to have fake conversations about caring about the environment that will never get us anywhere, except they will become more popular. Okay. It's like that gay guy who was always collaborating with Brett Cooper. I'm forgetting his name right now. It's like, okay, just because you have a gay friend who's conservative, it doesn't mean like anything. Because like, again, she'll be friends with a gay guy, a coworker with a gay guy, and then she'll turn around and vote against his rights. What are we doing?
Is it
so going in a
political?
different direction. Do you know like every Super Bowl, they have those like interest campaigns?
Yes.
What if there's like a really uplifting park campaign?
Totally.
And it's like rooted in nostalgia
Yeah.
and the importance of parks around the country and the world.
I'm obsessed.
All right, campaign.
Let's roll with that idea. Were we supposed to create like an ad campaign?
I think it was just like a project or a
Time is
thing.
up.
Wow, your fake stopwatch is looking real
Wow.
good, girl.
Thank you. It says, to my grandpa.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Love him.
Okay, so how did that go?
So great.
That was great.
You got along? Okay, so pitch it to me Shark Tank style. I want to hear it.
So we think that local parks deserve more love. National parks, they get all the love, they get all the hype, but everyone has a local park that is down the street from their house. Or maybe they do if
Was Patty or Brett paid to be here? Because usually it'd be nice to pay people for their travel and being in videos and stuff, obviously. But I want to know, do they volunteer? What was the point? What sold it to Patty to do it? What was the, you know, Kat Black talks about this a lot, where Kat Black has been asked to be on Jubilee. And Kat has said, why in the fuck would I go on Jubilee to be humiliated and argue the right to my existence? Why would I do this for Jubilee to do what? And that's the thing that I'm saying is like a lot of us will not put ourselves in this position for a fucking reason. And it's because we know what it is. It's using us as props in your video to go viral. I've gotten emails from people and it's like, leave me alone, bro. And that's why I say like, I'm very cynical about who I do or hesitant about who I do collaborations with now, because it feels like I'm not a prop for you to go viral, bro. I'm not like, I don't want to be in your video so you could, you know, I'm all about networking. I'm all about building audiences together, but in a direction. And it feels like in a direction for the people, not for our bank accounts necessarily. Like that's just a realistic benefit, but that can be the focus. Like that's why the red pill does that. The red pill of the focus of the red pill is to build each other's bank accounts by siphoning off each other's audiences. And I'm saying, I don't want to do that. I don't want that to be the focus of the collaboration. Hello, Queen. She's so cute. Oh my gosh.
they're white and they don't have they're black, but that's because of the inequality of nature. But we can get back to that later. But everyone has a park nearby their house or a little spot in nature that's so special to them, that means something to them. And
Chad says, poor Brit, I feel bad for recommending this vid. Oh, I already had it on my watch list, girls. Before any of you even recommended it to me, don't worry. I saw it on my recommended. I was like, oh, what is this? So don't worry. I was going to watch it anyways. Just to prove my point, though. Listen, all I feel like when I watch these videos is it proves my point of the work that I'm doing. And it tells you that I'm not just like a jealous, like girly, like people try to accuse me of. I'm saying I've already had these opportunities. I just didn't take them. That's why I didn't get famous. That's what I'm trying to explain to people. I had these opportunities and I'm telling you, I don't recommend taking them. You can't take them. I don't blame you, but I recommend you don't, because look, I still found success. I still have my dream job. I still have my great marriage. I still have my great apartment. I still have my amazing cat. I still have my great life. I didn't have to do it. I didn't have to do this to have my dream life, but they are convinced they have to do this to do something. I don't even know what they think they have to do this for, but that's the worst part. The most malicious thought is like, they already have their dream life and they're still doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like, why are you doing this? Why do you have to do this? You know, Hassan will say, oh, I'm doing it to get my voice out to as many people as possible. But why? You know what I mean? Can't you figure out how to build your community otherwise? Now, to be fair, somebody said the other day, but don't you want your message to be heard by the most people possible? No, to be fair. I want it to be heard by as many people as I can, and then I want to die. I'm trying to die a good person. I'm trying to live a good life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Chet says there is no dream life with genocide in Gaza. See, this is why we thought you were a troll earlier, because that doesn't make any sense. You can't, that doesn't make any sense. We thought you were a troll earlier, but Habibi, that doesn't make any sense. You can't say that. I don't even think Palestinians would want you to say that. You know what I mean? Like, this doesn't make sense. There's a global population of 8 billion people. What about the 19.5 million Sudanese people facing starvation right now? All of these things exist always. We must do our best to harm reduce, but there are dream lives and people should get it, right? Like, we all need to do dream lives. Palestinians deserve a dream life. We all need to aim for a dream life that's about a collective and about being together. And so again, like, in my dream life also involves doing advocacy. It also involves saying free Palestine. It also involves making sure I stand on the right side of history. It also makes sure it's activism is a part of your dream life, you know, hopefully. I mean, maybe. But, you know, when you say there is no dream life with genocide in Gaza, you're insinuating something that's like hopeless. You're being hopeless. That's not a positive message. That message says give up, kill yourself. That's how I read that message. And I would never send that message to the world. I would always send the message, you have more to live for. Stay alive another day. There's so much you can do. There's so many people who need you and so many ways you need yourself. So stick around because we have so much work to do. But when you send the message, like that's just a hopeless message. And I also think on top of a hopeless message, this is a hopeless video. You know what I mean? This is a hopeless video. Because it makes no sense. What is the hope here? What's the message here? What am I taking away from this conversation? You know, what is the message? Right? Chet said, who dreams of life when genocide exists? The people the people suffering from a genocide, all of us, I'm going to, for your sake, Habibi, I think I'm going to block you. No offense. It's just like, I feel like you're either a troll or you're not serious, because I couldn't imagine a Palestinian taking hope from this message. I can't take hope from this message. I don't know how to make this a hopeful message. Like, they're suffering always. Every single person has been suffering always. Every population, every time on earth, there has never not been a genocide. And yet we find ways to celebrate, and yet joy is resistance. Like, resistance is about liberating yourself and your people, because otherwise, what's the point? What's the point of trying? So I wish you the best. Free Palestine. Maybe this community isn't for you, but it's just like, it feels very unsafe to have you in chat right now. I'm sorry.
We think that those deserve more love. So our idea is to create maybe a Super Bowl ad spot that highlights kids and the nostalgia of a local park.
And fostering a love of being outdoors and creating those memories.
No matter what that looks like.
Yeah.
The park
and
is but the
having
canvas.
Yes, and getting rid of the barrier for entry, where it's to your local park, and even as an adult sitting outside and reading, or being outside with your dog, whatever that looks like.
Yes.
That's something that I think almost every American can have some kind of connection to. And I think in a lot of minds that feels so simple, and that's not outdoorsy.
Totally.
And
Well,
that's
let's rebrand Outdoorsy.
Yeah.
Like, Outdoorsy is whatever you want to make it.
Yeah.
As much as I love Super Bowl ads, as much as the next guy, that's great
I mean, it feels like this whole video feels like an ad.
idea.
Thank you.
Or, hear me out,
Okay.
we make all the phone screens super bright so that it kind of hurts and it gives you a headache to look at. So people are forced to look at nature.
Is this
right?
an
Or we
ad?
could do the reverse, where we make all phones black and white, so that there is less of a dopamine hit.
But
of
I like the
scrolling
pain
and watching.
part.
You like
I think
the pain.
people should suffer.
Pain.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, pit heads, let us know in the comment section below. They make me do this. Let us know in the comment section below who has the better idea. Super Bowl ad or phone that hurts you. This segment is called Helping or Hurting.
Okay, let's see.
I'm going to again, throw a word at you, and you have to either say helping or hurting the environment.
All right.
Okay. Zeus.
Helping.
I want to be wishy-washy, but yeah, helping.
He's so hot.
Okay.
He's like,
What? Who?
Zeus.
helping.
Who's Zeus? What?
I want to be wishy-washy, but yeah, helping.
He's so hot.
Who?
He's like lightning and stuff, and that's hot.
Zeus? Like the god? Am I confused? Who's Zeus?
Wait, did you say Zeus or Zoos?
I said Zeus.
Oh, Zeus.
Oh.
Oh! You know what? That makes so much more sense. Okay, Zeus. I was like, what?
Oh. Okay.
I mean,
that's
Zeus is
different.
Zeus is cool too.
Can it be
It's
dependent
cool.
upon the zoo?
That's fine.
Steve Irwin Zoo is helping. Like that kind of zoo?
Yeah.
Some zoos.
I think zoos are helping, but they need a lot of reform, a lot like this country does.
Okay.
And I do think that
Ooh.
a connection to nature for people who often can't experience it, and to animals, I want it to help more than it hurts. I need people to follow through with that.
Okay, great. Helping or hurting the environment, the Bible.
Helping.
The environment?
Helping, and I would love if people would actually read it.
Have you read it, Patagonia? It's full of genocide and rape. Like, why do you say this? Habibi, my sister in Christ. My sister in Christ. What are we doing? Like, there's nothing. The Bible is a very interesting piece of literature. I recommend you read it. But after reading it, you will not be a kinder, more loving person. It's not like the Bible's not a loving and kinding tutorial. What is she talking about?
Regulations.
I'm a conservative, so hurting.
Boo.
But that's just more my principles.
I think that regulations are helpful. When I hear the word regulation, I think of the laws of nature, and that there are just some nature laws that are there and that everything forms to them. And so I want us to think about what regulation we're doing. But I think it's a tool, it's all how you build.
Helping or hurting the environment.
This is the most superficial video I've ever seen in my life. And this is why I say, like, the world really, one, it makes the wrong people famous, and two, just proves time and time again how unserious we are about the most serious issues. Because what is this? Honestly, I don't know how this doesn't ruin their careers. Like, not Brett Cooper's, But like, this is not a good look for Patty. And if it is, that just means she has captured a very lib audience, because I can't even understand this.
Children.
Helping.
Right? Helping.
Yeah, I have shit to say.
Oh, say it. Say the shit.
I think that anyone raising a child right now who cares about the environment, who maybe feels guilted by the environmental movement that they have a child, I think that is so whack. I think that having a child is an act of faith in humanity, an act of faith in this world. I have so much respect for parents and how parents can literally bring to life this next generation of people who can care for the world far more than the billionaires and corrupt politicians that support them can. So I really have a problem when the environmental movement loves to shit on people who have kids, because I think that it is about raising a generation to love and to love radically and to love this planet and to love each other. And that's what I have faith in.
Oh, that made me tear up. I love that. I think motherhood extends far beyond just raising your own children. But I watch my mom, who has been a mother to so many people in different communities, who has reached out beyond, what people would, perceive as political barriers or class barriers, and said, I want to build something for you that my children can access that you might not be able to access, or I want to give you this opportunity, or what can I create to make our community better? I think parenthood and motherhood is also just such a unifying and powerful experience in that way.
I think that,
to be fair, this is what Hassan sounds like to me too when he talks to conservatives. Like, he loves that they love him. He brags about how much the Necessary Podcast mom loves him and how they're like, we're Team Hassan. Like, this is what I'm saying. I don't like, if my parents were conservative creators, I'd have to push back and say, I love my parents, but you're causing a lot of harm. Like, for their kids to highlight their conservative parents' views onto the internet, like, that's so much harm. Like, why are you platforming bigots, even if they're your own parents? You know what I mean? If you want to heal family trauma between people, go home and heal it with your family. Girlies, I've been trying to heal family trauma for 37 years. And I tell you this right now, if you love your conservative parents, don't bring them to the internet. Take them to a therapist's office, send them love, be open with boundaries, take time away, take care of yourselves. But trying to build a business with your bigoted parents so they can say outrageous shit so you can clip them and go famous on TikTok, like, that cannot be good for anybody. And for Hassan and the Patagonia and all these people who are supposed to be on the right side of history, this is the work that they're doing, is just like, this can't be the future. I refuse to engage in a world where this is our future. This is what I thought was the goal 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 6 years ago. But it's like 2026. I'm 37 years old. We know this doesn't work. Okay, what other option do we have? Yes, radical acceptance. Yes, radical love. Yes, feed your communities before, and don't ask them who they voted for. But when it comes to working, I just know as a creator, I'm a full-time creator. I know what networking does. It always pays more. It's always good for your bank account. But at what cost? At what cost?
that a lot of leadership that this nation and that nature needs for us right now is leadership from the feminine. Mother.
Oh yeah, wait. Somebody asked me, how do we ethically talk to conservatives? I think there's only a very few circumstances in which you can ethically talk to conservatives. One, as a public servant to the American people. Okay, you obviously owe an obligation to your voters. Two, as people in positions of power when it comes to health. So mental health professionals, doctors, people who are trying to get the collective to move in a better direction. I think you should talk to conservatives for your job, in media. As long as you are pushing back and guiding people in a better direction and not, turning a blind eye to something or somebody's bigoted stances in order to make the peace, right? If we have to make peace at dinner, you know what I mean? Call me a wasp and put me out of my misery. Like, I'm not here to make peace. Not when there's so many problems. You know where the peace comes from? Inside. And I will, but I'm not here to make peace at work when I know I'm getting paid and I know I'm becoming more famous. Like, who am I to get famous by ignoring bigotry? What does that say about my ethics that I am willing to network with bigots in order to build my brand and my wallet? What does that really say about us? I think it says a lot about our character, and this is why I'm so disappointed in this collaboration.
Nature. We've seen what happens when men lead.
Yeah.
It's time for women to lead. It's time to listen to women. It's time to learn about the leadership that nature can teach us all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that ecosystems that are connected thrive and ecosystems that are disconnected die. Right now, men are leading us to being very disconnected and to ecosystems dying. I want way more women. I want way more mothers in leadership positions across our government. That would change America.
And I also think that on both political sides, there is a push to go back to something that is more natural and that manifests in different ways, obviously, and it's very politically driven. But seeing people on the right become extremely interested in a lot of ways in health and agriculture and caring about that and understanding that that does not have to be a left-wing talking point. I think that's been so harmful, that these topics have become so polarized where so many people feel like they don't have a place in these conversations. But they're going outside and being involved in this kind of advocacy or even
Chad said just talking points back and forth. It's literally girl, they're playing a game of tennis and they're like talking point. This is the most superficial conversation I have ever seen in my life. This is why we watch SBS Australia public television. Now those are conversations. Now that is interesting. This is the most superficial cash grab I have ever seen in my life. This just feels like a complete networking cash grab to me.
just care or love for our earth, and it does not have to be.
Man.
It doesn't have to be politically polarizing.
Doesn't. Again, like when I hear you say you want healthy environments for your kids, for moms.
Yeah, Chad says this is like high school. Yeah, this feels like stuff you would introduce to young children that are learning for the first time how to have conversations with people who are different. And then eventually you introduce them to something a little bit more polarizing or something a little bit harder. This is not a conversation people should be watching in their 30s. This is not a conversation people should be conducting in their 30s unless the aim is to talk to teenagers. Because like, what are we doing here? And even at this point, our teenagers have the internet. They're going to need something a little bit more serious. Don't leave teenagers behind because you think they're stupid. Invite them into the conversation at a level they can understand. So maybe this is even for middle schoolers. This is like a middle school level of politic understanding. And I know because I've been looking at politics, reading politics, and watching politics since I was literally like 6 years old. So trust me, you know what I'm saying? Gosh, this is crazy.
Every drag queen and every queer person I know. You know, I want the same for every cat mom I know.
Yeah.
When I hear you say that, like, you want healthier people, healthier communities, healthier ecosystems, same girl.
And we want that for everybody. It doesn't discriminate, and it shouldn't discriminate.
It shouldn't. And yeah, I really think that.
And I think that
women
healthy
are the
bodies
shit.
and healthy minds will also make our country so much better. I think that a country plagued by chronic illness and people that are addicted to phones and never going outside. Oh my God.
What?
Let's just,
Oh, this. Sorry. It's fine. We were going to like symbolically bury the hatchet, but you both love each other so much that we don't really know what to do with it. So what should we do with this?
we should break the ice and then go do a cold plunge. No, I'm terrified.
Let's do it.
No, I'm
Let's
terrified. That was a bad
literally do
idea.
it. Let's literally do it. I'll do it if you'll do it.
I'm so happy that the both of you are going to do that. Just you two.
No, I think it's really special
No,
if
I
the
think
facilitator
it's
of
great
this.
that both of you are going to be doing that. And we have one more segment, one more round
Okay.
of word hunting, okay? I'm going to say the word. Say the first thing that comes to mind, okay?
Mhm.
Okay.
Patagonia. The word is Brett Cooper.
A new friend.
I love that.
Brett, the word is Patagonia.
Can I have two words? Welcoming and introspective.
I love that.
Yeah.
This is, you know what? You're going to do a cold plunge. All this warm, all this warmth and excitement. It's been so nice talking to both of you, genuinely. Thank you for sitting here. It's been an honor hearing this conversation. I feel like we're almost family at this point, right? Would you mind taking a Christmas card photo with me?
I would love to take a Christmas card photo.
Okay.
I love that.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Come on.
Right now.
Right now.
Okay.
I feel like this is like a trick and I'm going to be pushed in the water.
Yes,
Stand
the cold
right
plunge,
over
the cold
there.
plunge.
I'm going to pause it before I get copyrighted. Damn, that was rough. That was an incredibly superficial, incredibly slap in the face to anything that we've been facing. This is so tone deaf of Patty. I'm shocked. Was this filmed in 2019? Like, I can't believe this is the video we got. Let's see. Okay. Top comments. Jubilee wishes it was this productive. Oh my God. Imagine calling this video productive. 3,000 likes. Imagine calling this video productive. Jubilee video if they slayed. Jesus Christ. The mental whiplash I just got from seeing Patagonia, Brett Cooper, and a man carrying things all in the same frame. Oh, what is one way you feel the most misunderstood? Love this question. Okay. Oh, man. My head. I can't believe. It's too bad environmental issues have to become so political. Good to see people talking about it in a constructive manner and finding common ground. Yeah, what are we talking about? This is what I'm saying. Centrists are the worst. Centrist, libs, playing games and networking with fucking Anyways, okay, we did it. That's crazy though. Wow, what a ridiculous video. All right, that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about today. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it so much. Hey, have a good weekend and stay safe and take care of yourselves. And I just hope you have a safe weekend. I hope that if you're dealing with conservative parents, you learn to love yourself. And by loving yourself, you set a good, you walk the walk and set a good example. And a good example of sometimes being in a position of power and privilege is to be careful about who you network with. I just can't believe that this was the decision Patty made, but you know, what are you going to do? Okay, stay safe. If you're Discord members, no event. I know it's the 4th of July. Even if you're not celebrating, stay safe. You know, be careful. If you're going to drink and drive, or no, whoa, pause. If you're going to drink, don't drive. And if you're going to, you know, celebrate the 4th of July, please have a DD. Stay safe, hydrate, stay cool. And I will see you guys on Monday. Okay, see you then. Bye. Thank you for being here. Oh, and thank you guys for member gifting today and super chats. And I wish everybody the best, even the people I blocked today. I wish you well. All right, see you Monday. Bye.